Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, including, but not limited to, my latest Patreon, whose name I'm going to butcher, hopefully, or maybe not, we'll see. Dibril, I'm going to spell it out, D-I-J-B-R-I-L. I'm going to say Dibril, hopefully I've said that correctly. Harris Eads, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Aaron Bowden, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flatter Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Well, I came across a person that says that the word unicorn is mistranslated. Actually, what it means is rhinoceros with one horn. So it's not a mythological creature.
You're having me on. My daughter loves unicorns. I don't know. Get in here. We're talking about unicorns.
Well,
we could make it a
unicorns.
Do you want to hear the conversation? Well, then shut the door and sit down. Don't say anything. Pardon?
Well,
hold on. My wife's got something to say on the matter. Eleanor, open the door. I want to hear what Mummy had to say on the matter. What did you say, Paula? We're not destroying unicorns. Come and sit down, Eleanor. Just listen up. Shut the door. Sorry, guys. You carry on.
All right. Well, there's 9 verses in the Bible about like unicorns. The King James translators that unicorns, but I like to look at the context to see, what animal this could have been or be, right? So there's like 9 verses in the Bible, so it gives us a rough idea of what a unicorn could be. Like one of them, we're told that the range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searches after every green thing. So his pasture is range in the mountains, and he eats green things like grass, probably, right? Or every green thing. So when you read the surrounding body, you kind of get an idea of what that word could be. Go on, Demondek.
I'm just saying, a goat springs to mind with me. A goat and the Aries, the ram of Aries, being something to do with the unicorn, maybe in the Bible, or maybe an astrological way.
There's more verses too that give more context, right? Like, I mean, it could be. I know one verse says like they skip or something. I forget where that word was. Was it?
They. Be more specific. You're saying unicorns. They.
Okay.
Is that yes?
Did I say?
I just want you to be hyper specific. When you say they, what do you mean?
I said they, as in say what I said.
Yeah, but what do you mean by it? Bloody hell, it's like pulling teeth.
Right. All right. Okay, the word unicorn.
So you mean unicorns?
Translated into King James. What's that?
So you mean unicorns when you say they?
Okay, well, it was. Yeah, we're talking about unicorns. Yes. So we're trying to get an idea what kind of animal a unicorn is, right? So there's a couple of verses. You want me to just go through them really quick, just to get the context of what they could be? All right. Here's some things about the unicorns in the Bible. Mentioned 9 times. God brought them out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of a unicorn. So apparently, a unicorn is a strong animal, right? The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searcheth after every green thing. So the pasture of a unicorn is the range of the mountains, and he goes after every green thing. So not just grass, it could be like anything else that's green. Would the unicorn be willing to serve thee, or abide by thy crib? Canst thou bind the unicorn with his band in his furrow, or will he harrow the valleys after thee? So I don't know.
It's
I
not.
don't know what a
It's not
furrow is.
defining it though. It's questioning it as opposed to they roam the valleys. So my daughter's sat here, Eleanor. So they're not in the sky. What can I say?
Oh.
That's what it's saying. But it's not even saying that, is it? It's saying they might be, or it's asking if they are.
It says the range of the mountains is his pasture.
Is okay. I didn't catch that bit. Okay, so it's not the sky. Sorry, sausage.
Nope. And there's another one in Psalms. He maketh them also to skip like the calf, Lebanon and Syrian like a young unicorn. So
Oh, now you're believing in unicorns. I've been telling you for
Nobody
years.
said that,
David
Neil.
Real.
Nobody said that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I just came in. What's going on?
Oh, hold on. My wife will tell me off if I carry on this vein. Right, Eleanor, I think you can go now.
So
Good morning, Neil. Thanks for horning your way in.
Eleanor says, hold on, guys. Eleanor says, thank you, righteous.
You're welcome, Eleanor.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
I don't know if 10th Man's on, and I just want to ask any of the listeners, are they familiar with the videos of Bill Donahue, where he interprets the Bible, the hidden meanings, of course, of his interpretation of the Bible? And they're pretty good. It's all mastery of the body and pretty much a story of the cosmos. But it's a very interesting take, of course.
Hello? Go ahead.
Well, he said his interpretation.
Hello?
There's no private
Yeah, I
interpretation.
heard what he said. Carry on.
Well, I watched hours of his content. It's very good, and it goes back to hope John's not on. I'm gonna say the word, the Kundalini and all that, but it's all of mastery of the body, and it makes a lot of sense to me. It's all interpretation, and I was wondering, how you guys are so literal. Well, you have to be, right? In science, we have to be so literal, and we have a 10th man, which I respect, of course. He actually believes in a humanoid god, or I could be speaking out of my ass here, but I find it hard to believe that 10th man is so so anal about being right about the flat Earth, but he believes in a humanoid god. He believes you guys' name was
Okay,
Jesus.
can you just let him finish? I realise you're gonna.
I'm
I
good.
appreciate.
I'm good.
Hold on, both of you. I appreciate you're gonna want to respond to this, right? I get it. Just let him get to the end of his piece. He's not going to be long.
He came to the end when he started.
Maybe.
That's it, Neil. Go ahead.
He's yielding to you now, Neil. Off you go.
10th man.
That's not what I said. Off you go, Neil.
He mentioned 10th man about a humanoid god and flat earth, so anal about it. So 10th man, deal with this guy.
But you're the one who is interjecting, aren't you, Neil? 10th man managed to hold his tongue.
Just like when people start with fallacies, you interject. This is a fallacy, so I interject and stop them. 10th.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, 10th, how's it going?
Good.
Jolly good.
God, Jesus said, God is a spirit. They that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And he said this because when they saw the resurrected Christ, they thought they saw a spirit, a ghost. He says, no, I'm flesh and bone. Handle me and see. He's waiting by the shore of the lake, and he's cooking fish for them as they're fishing. And this is after, post-resurrection. So when this gentleman says, I believe in a humanoid God, that's ridiculous because God is a spirit. Now, to find God in the Bible.
Stop. Okay, there's
Well,
three
let me
things.
finish.
Hold on. There's three things I'm hoping you'll address, 10th. I'm just going to summarize them. One, Jesus is a man. He is God, God on earth. That's number one. Okay, that's I believe his point without him having to reiterate it. Number two, he's asserting that there's an interpretation of the Bible that suggests a connection to the Kundalini. That's number two. Number three. Oh, somebody ringing.
Sound like somebody was drilling.
I was going to say, what the hell's that noise? It's completely made me forget the third point that he raised. There was a third. I've just forgotten it now. It's not distraction.
He's here.
What was the third point? Gene,
I think it was astrological.
Say again, one deck.
I think it was astrological. I think I
No,
mentioned it.
I'm here. I'm here. It was I think a story of the cosmos of how the sky moves, the interpretation. Because the only thing we had, now speculating here, the only thing we had in common, we weren't connected to India by telephone or anything like that. The one thing we did have in common was the sky. So I think humans. This is me speculating now. I think humans made
Okay, stop a second. Okay, thank you. We might get to your speculation. We might. But thank you. To summarise, or the third point that I interpreted that as was in connection to the second point, which is if you're going to be so literal about flat Earth, talk about elevation angle measurements and things like that, how can you be so fast and loose when it comes to Jesus as a man being God on Earth? There you go. I've connected all three together.
Yeah,
hopefully.
that's fine. That's fine. Let me finish.
Hold on, guy. Gene, just one sec. I think unless I've missed something, which I don't think I have, can you just let him respond? But go ahead, unless I'm missing.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it because, first of all, when I'm literal about the Bible, it's because the Bible is literal about what it's saying. If the Bible is saying, "I am the door," Jesus is not literally saying he's wood and hinges. He's saying he's the way. He's the doorway into heaven. So the metaphors are different. The parables are different. But when the Bible is literal, it's literal. So I'd have to be cited a verse. So now if he's going to go directly on the person of Jesus Christ.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Gene, have you got any citations specifically from the Bible that would infer a connection to the Kundalini?
Yes. I don't know it, but I'm sure Tithman knows it. Is practice a single lie, and your body shall be full with light.
What?
Is that it? Really?
Say that again.
No, I got it.
Come on.
Neil.
No, hang on, Neil.
Hold on. Hold on. Well, Neil, you
Can
go
I also
ahead.
say another? Can I say another?
Neil's got something to say. Let's hear Neil.
No, I want that verse. What's the problem here? What was that verse?
Can you repeat the verse, and then I think Neil's going to address it.
No,
Neil addressed it in the beginning.
No, Neil's going to ruin the conversation.
Okay,
He's not picking up the subtlety of what I'm putting down. Go ahead, Neil. Everybody else stop. Neil only. Go ahead.
What do you want me to say? Finish up.
I could if you weren't interrupting, but you are continually. Now I've given the floor to you, and you're like, all I've got to offer is interruption. So can you stop doing that? Unless you've actually got something to offer?
I sure can, right now.
You're just interrupting with colour commentary. Yeah, right. Yeah, 10th. Yeah. Don't need it. Just cut the colour commentary is all I'm asking. Right, can we have the verse repeated, please?
All right, I'm Googling on Bible Hub, but I believe it is practice the single lie and your body shall be filled with light. And they also another one, while I looked that up, the one he says, I saw the Lord face to face and his name was Pineal. The place he called was Pineal and everything. I don't know, it's so many, but Bill Donahue is the person I've been trying to
hold on, just say that again. You sort of convoluted the words. You've added the extra one to throw a bit of into the mix. Did you say, and the place was Pineal?
Yes, that is a very well-known verse.
It's a place, though, called Pineal.
Yeah, that's what it says in the Bible.
Right,
yes,
but that's a place.
I'm going to interject.
Just stop.
Exactly.
Oh, Neil. Go ahead. Neil's got the answers to all of this. Go ahead, Neil. Take over.
This was dealt with before. Pull up the show from a month and a half ago, and you'll hear him saying the same thing, and we explained to him that that's a place.
Oh, that's excellent.
Revisit this.
That's excellent, Neil. What's the show number? Because you're going to edit this together, aren't you?
Oh, so he didn't come on and say this once before. Really?
Neil, we're doing it now, aren't we?
Been dealt with is what I'm saying.
Has it? Because obviously it's never going to come up again because it's been dealt with. No, it's coming up right now.
Okay. I have the verses.
No, we've got it. We've got both of them now. Unless I'm wrong, 10.
Matthew 6:22 and Genesis 32:30.
Perfect. Okay, 10th. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's go to Matthew 6:22. Hold on one second. Matthew 6.
Can I also
22.
say that
Yes, go ahead.
that Tenth contradicted himself right there? He said, "Oh, it's not literal. Now it's literal." Between allegory.
No,
What?
I'll clear that up while he's looking for the verse. No. You take the literal parts literally, you take the allegorical parts allegorically, you take the metaphorical parts metaphorically. It's that simple.
And how are we to know that?
Because it states it.
My goodness.
Does it now?
All right, here we go.
Yes.
Okay,
In this
you're going to
instance,
listen or you're
yes.
going to interrupt?
Stop. Yes, that's why I clarified it with you before 10th launches into it. I clarified it specifically, so that's how the outset's going to be clarified. And I'll do it again because it's being ignored. No, it very specifically said placed, didn't it? Did it say metaphorically, meaning the part of your brain that controls fear and sexual desire? Did it say that? No, it said a place. So it's quite specific. And when you say, well, is it? Yeah, it is. Okay, 10th, go ahead.
Matthew chapter 6, 21 and 22 and 23. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thy eye be evil, the whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? So that's the KJV. Now the ESV would read, for where your treasure is, your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? Now, what is he trying to say this verse says? Let him speak, please.
Talking to Eugene.
As I've listened to Bill Donahue, he believes this is a pineal gland activation, and it's a single eye. The pineal gland has been shown to show some type of reticle, or what is it? Some type of eye thing it has. It's very familiar to a photo something, but its reaction to light as the eyes of one. But and the other verse, the place called pineal, it literally says the place Jacob called the place pineal. Okay, so he named the place pineal.
Okay,
Funny
let's
how
stay
it
in
sounds like
Matthew for a
pineal
minute.
gland.
Let's stay in Matthew
Okay.
for a minute before you jump to Genesis. All right. The word is in the interlinear, a lamp candle that is placed on a stand or candlestick. Light. Where's the pineal? I mean, if the guy wants to interpret the Bible to a
Let's stay on Matthew.
Hindu-
Let's stay on Matthew.
hang on. No, it says light. It says light or lamp. It doesn't say kundalini. It doesn't go to the Hindu kundalini energy. I'm sorry. He's
Of
putting
course
in
not.
text where it doesn't belong. You're listening to a bad teacher. My goodness, there's so many people interpreting the Bible the way they want. Why not just let the Bible interpret the way it is? It's pretty obvious what the verse is saying.
Probably because there's only one perspective.
But you can do whatever you want. At the end of the day, the Word of God says what it says, and we can look into the original language. It's pineal doesn't go there unless you want to stick it in there.
It's in there. I mean, what do you want me to do?
It's not in there.
Genesis.
Lamp and light is in there. Now, if you want to say that means this because you believe in the Hindu energy, no, sorry.
A lot of people believe in it.
That's fine.
Fine, believe in it. That's fine, believe in it. But it's not what the Bible is saying.
All right, let me go back to my original point. I was just asking 10th Man if he is familiar with Bill Donahue. I thought he would find it interesting, but I guess not. I guess he doesn't want to see it either. But I carry on.
Oh my gosh. No, I could look into Bill Donahue and find out he'll be no different than all these other people, like the person who started Jehovah's Witness, the people who started Mormonism, the people who started Christian Science, or any other religious system that uses the Bible to control people, but then it changes the verses to mean what they want to do. Yeah, I'll look into this Donahue person.
That's all I ask.
All right.
The problem is, and I can see it already, and I can detect it in 10th Man's tone, is it Gene? Am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah.
The problem is that we're well acquainted with a YouTuber called Bible Literalist. And this is her entire shtick in regards to Bible research and Bible literalism. So, Paula basically explains that when there is an interpretation to be made, the way you would do it isn't through the KJV or through Phil Donahue. It's through looking up the words and their meanings from the original language that it was written in. And then from that, seeing how directly you can translate that into English to interpret it. Now that should be
So you mean etymology?
Exactly, the etymology, precisely. So you're going, but it's not. It's the etymology when you look at it in the English and start drawing interpretation that's questionable, and that will be what Phil Donahue's doing. It's what he's done based on what you've told us. Is it Phil? Is that someone else? Sorry.
It's a Bill Donahue.
Bill. My bad. Now, I'm sure he's a lovely guy, and I've got nothing.
Talk show host in the 70s, Nathan. Pretty good.
Yes, I knew I got that in from somewhere, the Phil Donahue one. No, but Bill Donahue in this instance, sure he's a lovely guy, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, right? However, because of my having watched Bible Literalist, Paula, now called Level Up YouTube channel, if you want to check this person out. So check out Paula on Level Up YouTube channel. But that's it. That's all she says is, if you're going to interpret it at all, go back to how it was originally written down and look at how those words are actually stacking up in their meanings when they're originally connected together. And that can take some work. And that's what she typically does. She'll take someone like Bill Donahue who's saying, this means the Kundalini, and she'll go, right, let's go have a look at the Hebrew. Let's see what the text from that section actually says. And from there, we can make interpretations of what the translation will mean based on our translation and the justification for our translation when we do it now in modern times. Now, that's a whole process long before you get to what Mr. Donahue is doing, which is interpreting it presumably from the KJV, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to do whatever the bloody hell they like as far as I'm concerned. Number one, I don't care. I'm not a Christian to get fussed about it, but I know enough about it to understand why other Christians would get fussy because, and this was, as her namesake suggested, of the Bible literalism that should go along if you're going to research something that has a historic standard to adhere to, as opposed to an interpretive standard, which is what the guy you're suggesting 10th go and look at is doing. Now, I'm going to speak on my behalf, not 10th, when I say, I know that's wrong, and I'm not even a Christian. So I can already see the alarm bells going off, and that's why Neil's so objectionable in this regard, and I've had to calm him down 3 times. That's just the way it is. He's a devout Christian, and he is well familiar with Paula's work and the processes that go along with decent historical standards being applied to interpretation. So there you go. There's my justification for why everyone's giving you a hard time, just for you recommending some guy that's just going, hey, I read the Bible, and this is how I see it. It looks a lot like and sounds a lot like and parallels along with things discussed in the Kundalini in regards to that. So there you go, here's the parallels. Now, if that was all he was doing, going, check it out. They're talking about stuff to do with your eyes being the light of your whatever. And here's the Kundalini describing your eyes being the light of whatever. And look how they parallel. That is fascinating. And if that was the way it was presented, which I'm in no doubt it isn't, I'm sure 10th Man would be like, wow, that's cool. I love to see how some of these things parallel alongside other religious viewpoints, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's pretty much what Bill Donahue is doing.
But that's different. That isn't how you presented it. I've got to be honest.
That's why I'm telling you to please go check it out, because I suck at this.
No, fair enough. No, you might just be doing a bad job, and I'm not knocking you in terms of what he is or isn't doing. And I'm sure 10th Man typically, when he says he's going to do something, may well do that exactly thing. So we'll see.
Well, 10th just doesn't listen, and he's just not interested in hearing.
Welcome, Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hey, hey, hey.
Wait, but I'm here in Gilded.
What's that?
Not in Gilded, now you're in Discord. Gilded was a short-lived thing, eh? It was so good, it had so much potential and so much promise, and we may go back to it at some point. But no, alas, we are back on Discord. Memories. Right, let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
You mean like a hill of water for boats to go over?
Yeah, basically a physical hill in the way of things that go over it. An edge for boats to drop over, claimed to be Earth curve.
Well, I've never seen a hill of water, so...
You know what? It doesn't behave that way. No, that's right. I mean, you might have seen a
Hold on.
wave.
Are we supposed to have the edge? I always remember saying that, where's your edge?
Yeah,
The
it's something,
flat earthers, but they have an edge.
that's correct. It's something I'm on the vibe of at the moment. Whenever you've got a challenge presented to you or a straw man reification that's presented to you as your model, try to bear in mind that there's normally a reason behind that, which is to say that the person making you do that or making you explain that has often actually got the positive or the positive claim to defend in that regard. So with flat earthers, it's us being presented with a pizza pie model flying up at the rate of gravity's suggestion in Einstein's mechanics through a sky vacuum in the heliocentric world with an edge, boats falling off it, and we're asked about the edge for the flat earth and have we found it and boats falling off it and will we fall off it. That's the general vibe that Neil's describing, right? Well, why is that? Well, because in reality, the globe Earth has a positive claim to defend, which is that there's a hill at the horizon called Earth curve that boats will fall over, and you can measure how much they've fallen over it. So in literal terms, that is the edge of the Earth that they say proves the Earth is a sphere, with boats falling over that edge, the edge of Earth curve. So hence we get asked about our edge and our boats that fall over it, because that is very specifically their claim of their proof of their positive assertion, extraordinary though it is, of the Earth being a sphere. The horizon's claim to be Earth curve. Now we have debunked this. Black Swan.
Hello.
Hey, Arwin.
Hey.
I'll just say, Nathan, I posted a picture the other day on social media. It's a picture of a boat seemingly to be disappearing over their so-called horizon. And I just put a question. Is this Earth curve? And a Glober or anti-flat earther replied saying, me, one deck is so dumb, it's hilarious. But I was just pointing out, this is your claim. It's his claim, and he's calling me dumb now for pointing his own claim out.
Yeah, we had that with the Black Swan, shockingly. So we point out that if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every horizon distance measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height of feet, as they assert. It's their positive claim. Now, because we've got the Black Swan image to show that the horizon's beyond the geometric limitations they assert is an edge for boats to fall over, we can say that the Earth is not a sphere and the horizon is not Earth curve. Response from the anti-flat earthers. Saying if the Earth's a sphere radius 3959, then every distance to the horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is a straw man. Excuse me, that's your claim. That's the literal definition of what the horizon claimed to be Earth curve is laid down in the maths to be. But they told us it was a straw man because we were saying it. So it's like Simon Dan when he starts telling me you and your reference frames are ruined because we disseminate what the globe Earth actually claims and then debunk it. What they hear as thick idiots like Simon Dan is the first part of the claim, which is actually their claim, and they debunk that. So what's that you say? If Earth turns underneath stuff, we'll have drift. Well, I'll debunk that. No, that's your claim that we're summarising before debunking it. Didn't you listen to the end, Dan? You just thought you'd debunk the summary of your own bloody claim. That's how thick the people we deal with that go straight to the top of the search results in YouTube. Idiots that debunk their own claim because they've heard a flat earther say it.
Don't forget conspiracy cats. Without the container, there can be no pressure.
Right. Exactly. That's the kind of muppet we deal with. The kind of person that affirms their own debunking, or tells us that their own claims are straw man, or debunks the very necessary reference frames for their own claim, because I've stated them. You're just like, my God, these people are completely idiotic. Hell, send them to the top of the search results. Trusted content, says YouTube.
Sorry, I was saying the other guy, at best you've debunked the radius. I don't think they ever think things through. I think they just shoot out of their lips.
No, they do. That's the problem. These people aren't that thick. They're actually going through the process of realisation of what it means to assert that you're measuring a geometric horizon at the sphere edge to get radius. And when you haven't got a sphere edge to measure because we've debunked it with the black swan, then at best you've debunked the radius. It's a logical implication. So he's recognised the logical implication and verbalised it. Yeah? So he's not that stupid, but by implication of his verbalisation of the consequence of not having a geometric edge to measure for an R value to make all of your claims with, the implication is he doesn't have a Earth curve edge or an R value or a claim in the first instance. He just didn't take it that step further. But he can recognise where his own claim's debunked and stated it was. At best you've debunked the radius. Yeah, the premise for everything you assert with a sphere, belief behind it.
Yes, that's what I mean, exactly.
Rumpus also says that the radius only exists in the maths. So it's another concession.
Exactly, it's a concession. Speaking of which, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
It only exists in the math below surface level.
It's inferred.
You just don't understand. The math is in the paper, so.
Can you explain that, John?
As opposed to at the horizon, where it's claimed to be in the math.
Yeah, it's in the math.
Yeah, but at the horizon, according to the math, but we've debunked that bit. The math saying, marked with an X, labelled horizon, that there's a geometric limitation to your view at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height called Earth curve. That's their claim.
Well, I'm getting a message here from Akuma. Apparently math is reality, so.
There again.
Well, math is reality, so, you know.
And math's not reality. Maths is a language, a way of describing things, conceptual in nature. Physics is reality. Physics is the physical.
Oh, you just don't understand.
The physical and natural.
Any scientific evidence of gravity, as we're on the subject of physicals and physicality and physics?
What is
Hello, just a quick point before you move on from the first question. This one is to 10. I was just wondering if I could employ him to help me with a bit of research. In the sinking of the Titanic, there was an inquiry, and it's called on the Titanic Inquiry Project. And on the 6th and 7th day, this is the British Titanic Inquiry Project. On the 6th and 7th day, the captain of the ship, called the Californian, was being questioned as to whether they actually saw the Titanic that night when it sank and the distance it was away. And it uses some, nautical references that I had trouble deciphering. I was just curious if 10th would look through that and see what he came up with.
Why?
Okay, it's called Titanic Inquiry Project, and it has a transcript of the testimonies from those days as this captain, his name was Captain Stanley Lord. He was the captain of the Californian, and it's very interesting reading.
Yeah, but why?
As to what, because of the distance it was away, he had a real hard time because he didn't rush over to the Titanic to help them for various reasons. One being, one question that came up was, could he see it from where he was, and how far away was he?
Of course, he couldn't
If the
see it. It was behind a bulge.
So, and okay, is there a conclusion? Is there a
Well,
reason?
this is what. Oh no, I just thought we're talking about distances where the horizon was, and this was a official document, and they're actually arguing as for whether he could see the distance that he could see, and it was a very important part of history. So I just thought, hey, look, is our people's perception of the Earth really affecting how they act? Because there was also a question about.
Stop. I get all that. Okay, but I'm gonna use it as a tool to point out why that's bad and why you shouldn't do that. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So that's been done. Lots of people point out here's where a boat is supposed to be on the horizon and where it isn't supposed to be on the horizon, and there's some zooming in and seeing it, and whether or not someone can see something at a given distance or not. Yeah, that was all we talked about up until 1st Jan 2020. Now, the reason that all changed 1st Jan 2020 was because in the specific image, so if you forget about modus tollens and the argument for a second, as I repeat it so often recently, the image itself, dubbed the Black Swan, is quite special for a number of reasons. You can denote specific distances with something that's in the ground, like attached to the ground. Now, it's got to see all around it, but it is at a very specific set distance. So about 6.5 and about 9.5 miles for the two different platforms, Platform Hill House and Platform Habitat, in that image. The Black Swan, the Black Swan. There are many more. There has been more before and after, but this is the one we are talking about. Now, because they're at a very specific set distance, you can say, this is where geometrically Earth curve must be as a limitation. And here's where the horizon is. And because you've got a literal marker in your view, in the camera picture, you can say this is this distance, 9.2 miles or whatever it is, about 9.5 miles. And here is the horizon, without doubt, beyond that. Therefore, it is the horizon. It is at beyond 10 miles, say. It's probably a lot further. But you can't measure it. But you can show how it is beyond these oil rigs. So when you compare that to, well, how far did someone say you could or couldn't see something in the Titanic's instance? Well, that doesn't give us a denotation of something that you can really peg down to. Where's Earth curve going to get in the way if it's a hill? Well, it's going to get in the way exactly as they say it will, at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. So that's where it should be, if the Earth's a sphere, blocking the view of these oil rigs. Because it's at 1.2 miles if you're at 1 foot observer height. That's it, you're at 1.2 miles out, there's your hill, blocking your view, the edge of Earth, for the boats to be blocked by, remember? The oil rigs aren't blocked by them. The blockage, the hill that they claim it is, Earth curve, is behind them. Well, if it was a hill in the way, it wouldn't move behind them. But you can show that with accuracy because of the detailed and very well laid down distances to the marker points, the oil rigs. So back in the day when we first laid this out, they're like, what about refraction in the oil rigs? What about it? Makes absolutely no difference to the argument. The argument's about the horizon. All the oil rigs are used for is to mark how far the horizon isn't. It's beyond them. Does it matter if they're completely wibbly wobbly? No, not in the slightest. What's that? Refraction's real? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, strange crap going on in the air, isn't there? Meanwhile, hills, physical obstructions, they don't move. we wouldn't be able to see anything of the oil rigs. Let's be honest. There'd be a hill in the way. There isn't. It's behind them. So it's not Earth curve. That's the end of the argument. But only because I can lay down their maths, their hill, and how far it would be, and show that it isn't with accuracy and marker points. There you go.
Okay, I get all of that. I just thought it would be of interest because different people are interested in different things. And in the case of myself, in my own experience, the person was reading this book about the Titanic, and this person would not have any interest in flat Earth, but it was a point of discussion when this question came up because it dealt with latitudes and distances, and it ranged from like 12 miles to 30 miles as to whether this person on the deck of the ship could see the other ship. But because it was in the context of the Titanic story, this person took a real interest. But like you said, as far as FED is concerned, yes, the question is closed, no doubt about it. I just thought it would be, because there are other things too that they use, like during the war, that could the Germans send a signal over to guide planes to more accurately bomb? It's a historical thing, but it comes up in the context, and that's of interest. But like you said, you are completely right, no question. Thanks.
Yeah, it's always buying into their methodology of assertion when you start talking about the distance that something travels over the surface, i.e. observer and target, as opposed to tying it down to the physical geometric hill claimed to be in the way. They try and make their proof about the object in the distance and how much it's obscured, and they shy away from talking about it as Earth curve when they're qualifying what proves Earth curve in the Earth curve maths. Deal with the dirty business of it being the horizon in the title, so you never have to mention it again. All you have to talk about is how many feet and inches of this building's blocked. You don't have to say by Earth curve. And if you do, you say by the horizon without actually directly inferring that what you're saying is there's a hill in the way. But that is what they're saying. So let's tie it down to what they're claiming. They're claiming, without wanting to actually say it, the horizon's a hill in the way. Let's prove how it isn't, as opposed to talk about what we might or might not see beyond that hill if we assume it could or couldn't be in the way. Is there a hill in the way? No, there isn't. Here you go. Black swan. It's not a hill. It's not in the way. It's not Earth curve. What's that? Refraction? Well, where are you getting the R to refract it with? From the geometry that you measure at the physical limitation hill and its geometric nature? No, you won't be. If it's refracted, that's the end of your argument also, because you need geometry to make this claim. You need R to make this claim. You need to measure R at the horizon being Earth curve for your claim. So if it's not Earth curve, it's a refraction, then it isn't Earth curve. So it's game over. But we need to be able to actually show that with distances, and that's what the Black Swan does.
Well, Nathan, I've actually had people say that there is a curve in the Black Swan. There's a hill of water.
The oil rig there, not a hill of water.
Sorry, hold on one second.
Bottom of the oil rig. What's blocking the bottom of the oil rig? What's blocking the bottom of the oil rig there?
Nothing.
Not a hill of water. So yeah, actually, that's exactly what it is.
What's blocking the bottom of the oil rig? Well, a hill of water.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Well, it's not being blocked. The hill Earth curve's behind it. They're babbling on about. They're just delusional.
Yeah, I mean, literally, he's saying there's a hill of water in between you and the oil rig.
Now, there would be if we hadn't shown that there isn't by showing the entirety of the oil rigs and the horizon behind it. In his mind, but there should be a hill in the way. Yeah, but there isn't. That's what we're showing you, you stupid idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell him directly in this clip. I say, there's not a hill of water.
What's blocking the bottom of the oil rig there?
Not a hill of water. So
yeah, actually, that's exactly what it is.
Okay,
look at how much is actually hidden.
Okay, buddy.
So there's a hill not blocking the bottom of it. There is. It's not blocking it. Idiots.
Yeah, I've got him in text saying the exact same thing. It's hilarious.
Awesome.
Well, is that them falling into their own trap? Kind of like he's got to assert the Earth curve math, right? And from the picture, it looks like the bottom, there's some of the bottom of the platform missing. So that has to be Earth curve. That's all it can be.
he's falling into the National Geographic problem. So the National Geographic problem was when they went out on the lake, looked at a boat, and watched how the bottom of the flag sort of gets squashed together, and then you lose the bottom of the stripe on the bottom of the flag at the boat at the back, and in the distance, that's Earth curve doing that. Excuse me. Hello. The horizon's behind it. Yeah, that's Earth curve squashing the. Really? The horizon, the physical leading edge of a sphere that the boat's gone over to squash that flag, the horizon is behind it. That's the National Geographic Black Swan. As I say, there are many black swans, but this one, the one with the oil rigs, is ours. The National Geographic Black Swan is their boat, claimed to have a flag disappearing because Earth curve's getting in the way, when what's supposed to be Earth curve, the horizon's behind the bloody boat. It's in the distance. Ooh.
Yeah, that's kind of like their own trap they set. It's like setting up a bear trap and then you put your foot in it whenever they do that.
Yeah.
That came out pre-Black Swan, so none of us pointed it out until Black Swan came out. And we're, hang on a second, let's go and have a look for a few more Black Swans. And what do you know, National Geographic's got one. Awesome job. But they didn't see it, we didn't see it, nobody saw it. Everyone just explained, well, the flag's got compression, well, it's perspective, blah, 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 blah. Right? Yeah, wake up, all you flat earthers who are still arguing that stupid nonsense in false dichotomy. We've advanced beyond that now. You subscribe today if you actually want decent arguments. We were the ones with them when they first came out. We're the ones with them now because nobody's using them. Because you want to argue about what causes the flag to compress. All right, who gives a shit? They say the horizon's Earth curve. And we address that head on directly and debunk it. The horizon isn't Earth curve. Especially when we can show what Earth curve beyond the thing you're saying is the effect of it being blocked by it when it's behind it. No, no, no. That's absurd and ludicrous to anybody with half a brain. Literally, you'd have to be incredibly stupid not to recognise that if you're claiming the horizon blocks things on its Earth curve, whatever the effect you show in the near foreground isn't going to be that if the horizon's behind it. As it shows on screen. Void, marked with an X, labelled horizon, physical in nature, geometric by assertion. Their Earth curve's dead. It's the edge, the one that we get told we need to explain on a pizza pie going up through space, on a flat Earth society pancake. Yeah, that's not our claim. It's really theirs. It's a burden of proof reversal that they need to instigate. Why are there so many layers? We've covered this a bit recently as well. I want you all to pipe up. Why is there so many layers to this onion of flat Earth ridicule? Because they can't censor us. Because their world's based on our world being a flat world, a flat Earth that you measure to give you the globe. So you can't censor us out of existence. You've got to do something else. Well, you can't get rid of them because that means getting rid of our own bloody globe model. What can we do with them? Ridicule them. Don't censor them because that would be terrible, because obviously then you've got to censor out part of our own bloody model, which wouldn't be very wise. So let's not do that. But make sure everybody knows that if you actually think the world is flat like it's measured for navigation and building stuff, then you're an idiot, because we've got the religion of globe. But just don't think beyond the religion of globe. And any numpty who says, I haven't thought beyond the religion of globe, they can go to the top of the lists instead of the people saying, look here, we actually measure it flat though. Can't get rid of this.
Interesting flat Earth religion, heliocentrism is.
It is exactly that. It's an interesting flat Earth offshoot. A religion that developed out of measuring flat planes was heliocentrism. That's why we can't be gotten rid of. Even if we're kept in a corner being irritating to all the anti-flat earthers in the same corner, even though they don't realise it. Why do you think we're here? Why are you allowed the same titles and tags? If we were just going to be censored, you wouldn't be here either. That was my attitude up until about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Well, surely they would have to be censored too. Well, we can't be gotten rid of because now there's loads of people with flat earth in their titles and tags. They're just pushed at the list as trusted content. So we're mixed in with them in the same pool, right? Yeah, why? Why would it be necessary? Just get rid of us, right? If Bigfoot was a massive deal and it was causing unrest in the Western population, they would censor Bigfoot nonsense out of existence. They could. They'd be perfectly legitimate in doing. Same with ghosts. Same with anything, really. If it needs censoring because it's causing problems and it's total nonsense, you'd have to get rid of it. That's what censorship's for, right? Well, why not just do that to us? Well, you can't. You need flat Earth. It's part of your globe. It's part of the derivation of your models and maps. Globe projections, no, they came from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris. The equatorial plane? Even if you use a globe, you're going to be putting it in a flat pancake in the middle of it, with you at the molten iron core measuring angles. It's nonsense. You need flat Earth. It's part and parcel of your geometry. So you can't censor us. Just replace us with crap, with idiots. Make sure they're as stupid as possible. That's why we've got people like Dave. Why would you put a fraud and a charlatan to the top of the list? Well, because you need to make anything flat Earth related seem as dumb as possible, even in the anti-flat Earth people who are claiming to undo us. In our reality that the world is measured flat with elevation angles, now get Dave at the front. Some numpty dipshit. Get bloody Simon Dan. Get the thickest people you can to the top of the list. Because then it still makes the whole thing look stupid, doesn't it, from the top down? Even if they're disagreeing with it. Doesn't matter if they completely contradict themselves. They're still in the same corner as us. So who cares? Shove them all over there. Their shit show, clown show of flat Earth. 90% idiocy at the top of the list. Off you go. Have fun. You won't find anything out. Unless you've been around since 2015, in which case you already know. Anyway, enough of my bitching.
If they deny us that, you know, you're saying the ridicule purpose, it's a bit like the Matrix, isn't it? It has to be there, otherwise I've got Morpheus' quote. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You've felt it your entire life. Like there's something wrong with the world. Don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. And if flat Earth wasn't there to appease that splinter, now you can appease it by laughing at it, but if it wasn't there, I think there'd be a lot more people raising this question if there wasn't the bank of ridicule. It's very important that it's not ignored this point, but that it's dealt with in a way that enables you to ignore it.
Exactly. And by flipping the burden and getting flat earthers originally to buy into the feast of nonsense, burden of proof reversal by explaining our pizza pie and boats falling over it, or our dome, instead of arguing for gas pressure not being possible if we haven't got containment, we're trying to fight for a glass dome over us that we haven't claimed. Same thing as trying to fight for an edge of a pizza pie that we don't claim.
Yeah, there's a guy in chat right now claiming ice walls, that we claim ice walls. But I heard he's a newbie, so we'll give him a little slack.
Yeah, just don't bullshit. If you don't know something's true, don't
Send
claim
him to Anthony Riley.
Was it Riley?
No, if somebody's... But that was one of the things that we had here that's assumed to us, and that you do when you start off. You kind of... You have to figure everything out yourself to get to that point that, why would I even think there's an ice wall there? What preconceptions have I got that I'm saying to myself, that seems plausible?
It's just a straw man, isn't it? I mean, the immediate response should be to right away feedback that with, oh, here's a question for you. How do you have gas pressure without a container? Right? Just move on. They move on to something ridiculous that they want you to get all preoccupied with. Just do it immediately right back.
When you when you nail them to the wall like that, you know what they say? Have any of you guys done any science? So all these people out there doing science.
Right. So
are we
then
not
they have to
believe
get
them?
one step more retarded about it. But yeah, what are you going to do?
Well, what we're going to do is share the show, because that's the way to combat this. It's the only way. It's always been the way. I say it every show. I say it at the beginning because of this. Yeah, if you want this information, we've got the best possible information. Let's not beat around the bush about what we do here. We're absolutely hyper-focused on this topic. There are very few channels that actually do that. Debay's one of them. It does occasionally branch off on stuff, but I make videos about computers occasionally, so it's not like it's that big a deal. But ultimately, there are very, very, very few channels that are hyper-focused on this subject. And as far as I am concerned, I don't mind blowing our own trumpets, we're the best at this. Flat earthing. So, if you want flat earth to do better, then the general populace of flat earthers have got to have better arguments. They've got to be able to actually convince people when they have this subject brought up. Not fall into the traps of explaining how we've got a dome or explaining how boats fall over our edge, and realising that you need to get back on track with the burden of proof in place, how it should be, with the Glober justifying his explanation for his edge that his boats fall over, or her gas pressure without a container, as she burns her bra at the Carmen line in lieu of gas pressure violating natural law. Get them to explain their claim rather than justifying your dome.
Right. Or you just say geometric horizon, black swan.
Why do sun sets, you ask? Well, I haven't made any claims about what the sun is or why it sets. Meanwhile, you've got a physical limitation to the sun, haven't you? You've got an Earth curve edge blocking it. We've debunked that. Should we talk about how you've got an Earth curve edge for a horizon? Because I haven't made any claims about it. Is the response you need to learn. And we'll teach it you. But you've got to share the show if you want others who are doing the same thing to be better at flirting.
What they do, what the opposition do is, like at present, there is no measurement, and nor will there be a measurement of Earth curvature, because it doesn't exist. But their proof that the Earth is a globe is that there is no proof that it's a globe. Their proof that the Earth is rotating is that there is no proof of rotation. And what they do is they try and gaslight people who are flat earthers who ask them these questions and make it seem like the flat earther is stupid and just doesn't understand when the flat earther points out that, or just somebody, a normal person, doesn't have to be someone who's a full-fledged flat earther, but someone who's just a normal person who points out a contradiction. If the Earth was rotating, how come this isn't happening? And then they get laughed at as if that person is stupid, because what they're trying to do is gaslight the situation and make the person believe that they are stupid for thinking this thing, and that it's obvious, but anyone with any intellect and understanding and knowledge would know that what this person is pointing out, which is a real world contradiction to their claim, is stupid, and only a stupid person would point this out. So they want people to believe that no evidence for their claims is the evidence for their claims, and they want you, as an everyday person, to think you're stupid if you point out that what they're claiming as evidence is not evidence, or what they're claiming should happen that would result in the X, Y, or Z effect that is not seen. And so they want to then make the person believe that they're stupid in some way for pointing this out, and they just have a lack of knowledge.
Right, so peer pressure. It's just peer pressure, right? Because in the end, if you face them, you can get them to summarize it. They probably won't do it as soon as they figure it out. They'll tell you, we wouldn't expect to see the horizon as a geometric thing. Neither would we expect to see any Coriolis deviation, nor, I mean, gravity holds down the gas, even though we don't know what it is. And if we even had some kind of clue as to what gravity is, then still, as a force, which is the only way it's tenable, it wouldn't be able to hold that gas pressure to the container. But it's no problem because we're breathing gradient. It's a ball, damn it. It's a ball.
Yeah, you can't have gas pressure without a container. Quick couple of shout-outs to Sasha or Unitox Femu, who says, Lighthouse on 20 miles, Lighthouse, Island on 10 miles, Island, Mountain on 50 miles, Mountains, Nature, Refraction, don't trust your senses, logic. Okay, thank you very much for the super chat and also for the extra super chat you dropped straight afterwards. Really appreciate the support. This is behind the scenes with the clapperboard. Thank you very much, Sasha, or Unitox Femu. Really appreciate the support. And also, shout out to Skeptic936, who just gives me money. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the support, both of you. Thank you very much indeed.
What did you think of my Baldwin summary? Pretty good, right?
I love the passion.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of these arguments, though, fall apart the minute you ask them to define terms.
Yeah, let's define the
horizon.
horizon.
Why do you want to be unreasonable like that, John? Eh? What an unreasonable demand of yours to actually define the meanings of the words before you progress. Of course, they're going to lose if you're going to be that strict.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, isn't it? They're working out of ignorance. All of their arguments are from ignorance.
Start with the word level.
That's why I asked that question. Any evidence that level runs equidistant to the centre of Earth?
You know.
Center.
Yeah, you got to have centre of a presupposed ball Earth, haven't you? Otherwise, you're making a claim, Nathan.
Well, how about a molten iron thingy down there? Is that even true?
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth based on an R value debunked by the Black Swan?
Right. But even if there was no centric thing about it, is there even this molten iron down there? I don't think so. There's no indication that anything is down there, even if you unpresuppose the Earth is a globe.
Well, if you're going to measure it, you'll need a flat baseline.
Well, Arwen, you know, the core isn't a boring blob of iron after all. It's been updated to be super ionic. So,
what?
Yeah, it's got a
yeah,
special
the scientists
coat on
discover that scientists discover that Earth's inner core isn't solid or liquid; it's super ionic.
Did they
It's
give you
a
the
black
science?
hole. I knew it.
Hold on.
Ironic.
How do you mean you knew it? What's the science offered? I'll just do a quick shout out and then we can go through creation.
I
But if that's
knew
okay
it.
with you. Just one sec, guys. Shout out to Nusnus. Says plain and simple. Support. Well, thank you very much for it. I really appreciate it. Go ahead, Creation Bear.
Well, all you have to do is just run a new simulation, and you've got
Whoa. Simulation, as opposed to establishing cause and effect reasoning through systematic experimentation based on hypotheses.
Well, it's like akin to a CT scan of a person. You run seismic waves, you know, when earthquakes happen, and you bounce waves through the earth. And now we know that the solid core is now super ionic.
So,
P waves.
can you use a CT scan on a piece of stone? Because on flesh, yeah, that works great. How about on stone now? Because that's what P waves and S waves are, right? How does that work?
This
on
is a
stone?
chasing your tail fallacy, isn't it? Really, and I've just made that fallacy up. But it would seem to me that this is a consequent of the previous claim and knowledge coming out, scientific knowledge coming out, which debunks the previous claim. So if you try to assign that the cause of magnetism on your ball Earth has to be certain things that you're used to, like big ferric magnets, then all you do is you turn the center of your ball into that. Now, years later, it has a consequence if we find out about Curie points and pressures and what would happen to that. So what you've then got to do is keep the paradigm. So you can't destroy the unicorns, the molten iron core. What you have to do is make them super ionic so that the behavior that you have now scientifically shown would happen to it now goes a different way, enabling you to maintain the magnetic field of the Earth and maintain the iron center.
I have an alternative. I have a much more viable alternative, and that is
alternative.
It might have been an iron. It might have been iron, but it's actually a black hole there, and it absorbed it. It's not absorbing the rest of the Earth. But yeah, black holes are known. Hold on, let me do this. Black holes are known to give massive magnetic fields. So wouldn't it make much more sense?
You're off track again, mate. That's not the point we're making. We're not asking you to conjure up more bollocks. I'm demonstrating how more bollocks is a necessary prerequisite of the previous bollocks being undone. It's not a matter of going back to the beginning like you're doing and making up something completely new that's unprovable. They're having to bastardize an already disproven thing with super ionic. That's the point. It's about polishing a turd.
Yeah, Adam, here it says that
they did the same with gravity recently, because, and I have no doubt about it, it's due to it being asked and said on this show. We asked, how come there's no, when they did the moon landings, how come it was all a force of attraction gravity? You know, Cavendish era gravity. How come there was no curvature of space-time? How come there was no general relativity? There was no gravity. There was no anything, because gravity doesn't exist within that model, general relativity. It's only an apparent effect. So when it came to the moon landings, they were using this force of gravity thing, right? You see the fellas jumping around in their spacesuits, right, as if they're on 1/6. They're only 1/6 of weight of their mass only has 1/6 of the weight their mass has on Earth. And now recently they've come out with a thing stating how they didn't use general relativity gravity when they were doing the moon landings. That's basically what they say. What crazy nonsense. But it's the same thing. They're having to take claims that they made and were obvious and now go back and somehow wrangle in some new sideways claim. I don't know what they're at, but it's getting really, really screwed up, what their model.
Quick shout out to Unitox Femo again. Thank you for all the super chats. Really appreciate the support, Sasha. Can we have refraction over a flat surface? Yeah. Even the globers have to describe it that way. Thank you for the super chat.
I just
There
wanted
is no
to say
global
that you guys
refraction.
have been maneuvering away my argument because it was just too devastating.
Yeah, that's what it was, Arwin. You completely annihilated us with that bollocks that you made up. I
No,
mean, that
housekeeping.
great argument.
I have the best bollocks ever.
You do.
Special theory of relativity, where the faster you move,
right,
the slower time ticks for you,
right.
As
Okay, should we start getting our teeth sunk into a bit of Neil deGrasse Tyson's bollocks?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I just want to say that Adam is making some very solid points today. Not that he always does, but
Just because Arwin won, don't need to back that horse. It's already lost.
Was that supposed to be a compliment? Because it sounded more like a jab.
No. What I got from that is Adam knows how to polish things.
So, okay,
Adam said I had weak stuff.
enough testicle references. We've got Neil deGrasse Tyson saying that as you travel faster, time, squashes, dilates, what was the word? I've forgotten now because of all this nonsense.
Move slower.
Move slower? So, like in a DeLorean?
88 miles an hour is the magic speed.
Okay. Time can be described in mathematical terms. Descriptions of time would be conceptual. Now, while we can describe the passage of time, it doesn't mean that we can bend, dilate, travel through concepts. You can't slow down time, Mr. deGrasse Tyson, you stupid wizard. This is nonsense.
Well, Nathan, it just depends. You have to be traveling at a magic speed.
Turns out there is a magic speed.
as others view it.
Relative to the observer.
Relative to the observer, correct.
So not relative to the speed you're traveling and the time that you can't dilate or change or move up on time and change or anything. It's just nonsense, just relative to the observer. What does that mean? No, time still isn't going to be dilated and you're not going to change the speed of it.
Correct. You don't know anything's happening.
Right.
So it could be that all of this is just nonsense that I've made up. You wouldn't know the difference. Isn't that amazing?
This
Clock's
is,
still ticking.
This is Planet of the Apes, isn't it?
That's
This is the
racist.
claim behind the time dilation. So for him moving at great speed in the rocket leaving Earth to return back to Earth, where time's travelled at its normal rate, he comes back still a man, and everybody's evolved into monkeys.
I take it back. It's not
That's the
racist.
premise,
It was a
isn't it?
reasonable
It's time
comparison.
Ticks as far, you've
Well,
still
that's
got your heartbeat, all of this. Okay, so this is not a physiological thing.
Not physiological. What, like dealt with by physics, biology in this instance. So what? Not real science then. Not going to be experienced in any physical way. All right. So
Like
definitely
rotation.
outside. Go on, whoever it is that wants to.
So it's
interrupt
like
us.
rotation, isn't it? The same again. You're not going to experience it in a physical way. Oh, so you won't feel it, express it. You just got to trust them, trust the numbers that time has dilated for you. You won't feel it. Just like you won't feel rotation.
Is an actual property of the fabric of space and time under those.
Time is not a fabric. That's a reification fallacy. Time is a description. That's conceptual. Fabric is something I can stretch out and roll balls on. That's not what we're going to be talking about if we're detailing the concept of time, though. Time is not a fabric. Can't be bent like fabric could be bent, because time's a concept. You don't bend concepts.
Those conditions.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? Wow. No, you're just being hoodwinked by probably one of the best magicians known to man. That would be Neil deGrasse Tyson, a magician. Shout out to Retro Bill, who says, "Bravo, Nathan. This show just keeps improving with age." Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate the support.
That was a pun on time.
Okay.
I
That
agree
is
with
fascinating.
It is. It's completely fascinating. It's completely. So I watch you fly by, and the faster you go, the
What? You watch him fly by, Do you? When did that happen? When do you see this? What are we witnessing that shows this as a demonstration with time being slowed down? Oh, right, you've got some stuff, some watches up in satellites, haven't you, that you would claim shows this, wouldn't you?
Can I point out something that's wrong with this? Because
Yeah, go ahead.
I love relativity. When you have speed, part of that measurement is time, miles per hour. So if you stretch out an hour and you go the same distance, then you've effectively done nothing. There's no way to describe it. So it's meaningless to say that you dilated or contracted time. It affects nothing to say that.
I see. So he's using this inconsequential claim, if you break it down logically, to make assertions about your worldview. Because if you actually break it down, as I've just said, it doesn't actually make any difference, because the qualifier of the concept of stretching or bending space-time comes with the speed within the description, because you've got it as distance over time. So it's just completely self-defeating. I've never recognised that before. It's so bloody obvious now you say it, John. I love feeling thick. I like it a lot. Right, you do this a lot to me, John. I like this. This is great. How stupid. So within the qualifier of him saying it speeds up or slows down, hold on. Wouldn't the speed itself have that within the qualification mathematically, like speed being distance over time? This is totally self-defeating. What a load of old nonsense, Tyson. Well caught. Kudos, John.
The slower time ticks for you, okay?
But my time stays the same.
To you.
To me, right.
To you. So not only does speed...
To me, to you, to you, to me.
Speed do this, also the strength of a gravitational field.
Strength? Like how you measure it as a force? Oh, George Musa, gravity is not a force. Professor Brian Cox, there isn't really a force of gravity at all. What are you babbling about? What are you going to measure?
Will have the same effect on you.
Effect?
Space-time bending strength, Nathan.
So effect on us? What, a non-force force that you can think of as a force that isn't actually a force will have an effect on us? Oh, definitely not.
Stronger the gravitational field is, the
stronger. Back to this assertion of strength. No, bending geodesics in space-time, you've just told the man, have no effect on him. To him, to you, to me, to you, won't have any effect. Now you're describing the effect it'll have on him. No wonder he's got a face like a slapped arse.
Mass is the only thing that can have an effect,
and that wasn't
that can cause the effect that they're talking about.
Precisely.
Only a mass that bends.
You were being rumpused by Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was an outrage. Can you say that again? You're absolutely spot on, though. I heard what you said.
Yeah. In their paradigm, the only thing that can cause the effect of gravity is a mass that bends space and time.
He can't bend time. It's a concept. We covered that initially, didn't we? This is a good video. Who said this? 10th, of course.
Formulated until his general...
Mass is only a calculation. Mass is only a calculation. There's
theory
no
of
such thing
relativity.
as mass.
10 years later. That took a lot more math and
Nathan,
deeper.
may I interject real quick, please? If you don't mind.
Love your comments. Go ahead, D-Rose.
Okay. You guys are aware that the same guy that he always speaks to in these videos is this. I'm not seeing the video, but is it supposed to be a alleged African-American gentleman that he's speaking with?
It's a good-looking brother with a beard.
He's a comedian. He's a comedian. He's not even a serious interviewing, podcast, reporting, journalistic individual. He's a stand-up comedian who is an F-rated, F-list actor. Okay, so now you have two clowns on here. See, this is the whole irony of they shoving nonsensical BS in our faces. This is a comedian that's interviewing him. So this is as relevant of science as Big Bird speaking with a guest on Sesame Street. Just to let you know, and I'm out.
It's Chuck Nice.
That's a great analogy.
Name.
It's who?
Chuck Nice. Comic co-host Chuck Nice.
That might be the best analogy I've ever heard in my life.
Can you say stuff off again?
Hold on, what was the analogy?
Big Bird on
no more relevant to science than Big Bird interviewing on Sesame Street.
Yeah, respect.
Exactly.
Wait, Chuck
Big Bird
Roots
interviewing
into
Neil
the
deGrasse
universe.
Tyson.
So once again, it makes sense because you're dealing with the fabric of space-time.
No, you're not. Time is not a fabric. You're not dealing with anything. Show me time. Show me you bending it. Show me stretching it out like a fabric. What's that? You can't give me a bag of time? Definitely not. We're not dealing with anything that's bending in relation to time. It's definitely not a fabric.
It's a fabric of space-time. Correct.
Wow. Okay.
But initially, when formulated, you're thinking it's just because you're moving.
Right.
But it's actually way deeper than that.
You just told him he was standing still and nothing would change for him, but now he's moving and he would think certain ways, would he? You bloody magician? No.
And that's why that one, oh, by the way, his original special theory of relativity was not called that. The title of the research paper was On the Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies.
Right, okay. Relevance being?
What?
Okay, that was the title. We would
So what? What's the relevance?
later call it the special theory of relativity because it was a special case of what would later then be called the general theory of relativity. Oh.
Anybody? No?
While we're there, let me just slip this in. The GPS satellites orbit higher than...
Orbits are begging the question fallacy. The assumption that Earth is a sphere with a radius value with things falling around it. Why would we assume such nonsense? Because we see things up in the sky? No, definitely not. I don't assume that things are falling around antipodal from my position and then coming back up to be above my head at the horizon. Furthermore, I know the horizon isn't the edge of a sphere for things to fall around. So no, I can debunk every aspect of orbits that you're making this man assume.
Than like the space station and other things that are in what we call low Earth orbit.
Low Earth orbit.
No, nothing's in low Earth orbit. There is no low Earth orbit. Nothing's falling around a sphere shape. You'd have to have a sphere edge horizon, you'd have to have an R value, and you'd have to have the presupposition of Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, aka orbits, when asserting that things are falling around each other, merely based on what you look at in the sky and infer after you see the repetition of lights in different positions over the course of weeks, years, however long you look. This doesn't mean that we have the moon falling around us or men in a sky vacuum, low Earth orbit. None of that's true. We don't have orbits. It's a begging the question fallacy, and every aspect you use to justify that begging the question fallacy has been debunked.
They're in like MEO, the middle Earth orbit. There's Leo, MEO, and GEO.
All bollocks.
Okay. If you have kids, maybe you name them that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or you could just beg the question of things falling around a sphere Earth with an edge that we've debunked and an R value that we've debunked in a sky vacuum that we've debunked. This begging the question fallacy doesn't fly with us.
Yes. Leo, Meo, and Geo.
Yeah, let's have a good laugh about this begging the question fallacy nobody's going to question at this point.
Low Earth orbit, middle Earth orbit, and geosynchronous, geo orbit. Okay.
Yeah, all bollocks. There is no orbit. Nothing is falling around Earth. There is no R value to make it an assertion in the mathematics, and there's no sphere edge horizon for them to fall over. We've debunked every aspect of this.
Right. So the geosynchronous satellites are like middle orbit.
No, they're not. Nothing is falling around Earth.
That is far enough away from Earth's.
Based on the R value, you're going to tell us how far they are based on the sphericity of Earth and its R value and the derived distances using that calculation? We've debunked R.
Source of gravity.
No, definitely not.
For them to have a measurably different space-time condition.
There is no condition in space-time. It's not physical. It's a conceptual medium you've bent. This is all nonsense. From this point forth, every word out of this man's mouth is complete nonsense.
Oh. So that their clocks tick faster than...
Told you, called it.
Our clocks on Earth's surface.
That's his claim to be feasible demonstration of his begging the question fallacies of orbits and orbital motion, Kepler's third law, his R value that he hasn't got to measure or assert it, and things falling around a sphere edge horizon. That's his justification. This time parlor trick, this clock parlor trick.
Because they're farther away.
Go on. Go on.
Yeah. Just to point out, it's going to jump on what John was saying earlier as well. Just to point out something. If the clocks within his model are ticking faster when they're 10,000 miles away from the surface of his globe, then that means they also could never be in what he's calling geocentric orbit. It would be impossible.
Geosynchronous.
Geosynchronous. I have the word all mixed up. They could never be in that orbit, which means that they hold a GP position over the globe Earth at all times. That same GP position stays. They basically orbit with the rotation, basically, right? they could never do that because they are technically within their paradigm. Now, we're not talking about reality here. We're talking about within their paradigm, remember. Within their paradigm, it would be impossible for that. It would be impossible for that to happen because time is moving faster for them, which means that they are also moving faster. So that would be an impossibility. Just so to throw that out.
Yeah, you wouldn't just be doing an adjustment, would you, for the supposed orbital speed required at 200,000 miles or whatever? You wouldn't just be doing that. You'd be having to do the time dilation calculations differential, wouldn't you? So that it didn't lose orbit. If time's moving at a different speed, then you've got to account for that, haven't you? Because if time's moving at a different speed, and as John said earlier,
hold on, I can't bear it because of what John said earlier.
Yeah.
If time's moving at a different speed over distance over time.
Yes, exactly. Brilliant.
Total doublespeak.
So remember I said the more intense the gravitational field is, the slower time ticks. So they're farther away. Their time ticks faster relative to us.
Yeah, total garbage. A parlor trick that is used to justify an entire worldview and fabrics of time bending is this, with the presupposition of orbital motion. Garbage.
Wow.
But we get precise timings from geosynchronous satellites.
No, there are no geosynchronous satellites, otherwise known as geostationary.
So how does this work? We pre-correct the time signal from the GPS satellites to compensate for.
I was taking the mick when I was agreeing with Brian, saying he's now actually claiming he's adjusting for time dilations when they send these satellites off. They pre-correct for the time dilation they're going to create.
Yeah, they move the hand forward a little bit.
Well, you know what they're actually doing? They're taking the Cartesian coordinates when you do that and bend it to create the sphere, then your measurements are off.
Correct. And they're correct for that. That's exactly what they do. So while they say that their time is altered by the height and therefore gravity, that's the basic bullshit that they're laying down here. All right, well, where do you get the timings? What's that if you push the distances out and base it all on R? Yeah, we did cover this, but that was a much better summary, John.
Einstein's general theory of relativity, so that by the time the time reaches us, well, it's been properly corrected and it matters to us and our space-time continuum, not the one that's at Middle Earth orbit.
Middle Earth orbit based on R. So what, the one that isn't incorrect if you haven't introduced the R value and derived the measurements from it? We debunked R. Go on, whoever that was from G+.
By the time reaches us, it's been corrected. It's just waffling nonsense, isn't it? Unless he's going to tell me how he's going to now correct time as well. Does he straighten it out? Straighten it back out?
Yeah, you can unbend a geodesic in space-time, I'm sure. Why not?
I think fiddle with the second hand's probably more accurate, Nathan, isn't it? It's just fanciful.
One more little bit.
Oh my goodness.
So GPS couldn't work as accurately as it does.
However, wait a minute.
What?
I'm sorry, just for me. You would have to have
a flat Earth for the GPS to work because it's using Euclidean Cartesian coordinates. So it's not even going to work on a sphere. GPS requires a flat Earth. Brian, can you just give that a 60-second summary?
1 second, Nathan.
Nah, you're not going to get it, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. Brian's being awkward.
I will. 1 second. Yeah. GPS uses three-dimensional Cartesian coordinates, two-dimensional and three-dimensional. Two-dimensional is X and Y, which is east-west and north-south, and three-dimensional uses the Z, which is up-down. So what that is a series of squares or cubes, and they all have to be the same exact dimensions, and they all have to fit with each other exactly. So that can't ever happen. It's a coordinate system that can never be used over a consistently curving surface.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Einstein was right.
Right.
All right. This is not just something on a high theory,
By the way.
hypothesized that may or may not be true. It is.
So notice him using the magic tricks of science, about him hypothesizing it to be true. This is a theory. These are all scientific terms. This is all scientific vernacular. So what is he doing? He's swindling you. He's talking about his bending fabric of space-time, which we've taken apart as complete nonsense. He's reifying time, a concept, into physical reality and then describing how it does things. Total nonsense. Now, how is he going to grease the skids to make you believe that? He's going to say, well, this theory, you know that term, like in science? This theory, he's not just making it up. He's not just hypothesizing about it. What another scientific term? Oh, of course, yeah, this is science, isn't it? No. Total lie. Total fraud. This isn't a theory. This definitely hasn't been based on scientific empiricism. This is the swindle. It's the same swindle we're seeing in Flat Earth with people punting free energy and all that kind of crap, talking about their cause and effect relationships, using scientific terminology like theory. Well, this is the trick. The fact that Flat Earthers have cottoned onto this magic trick and are starting to abuse their audiences with it is part of the course. They've been conditioned with it, so they've just gone, all right, meet the new boss, same as the old. I'll be that new boss. I'll use this trick of lying about science when I haven't got any, just like Tyson does.
It is true.
No, it isn't true. No, there was no theory. A theory would have scientific empiricism to back it. This hasn't.
Just want to be there when that phrase is uttered. Oh my God, Einstein was right.
Well, when it was uttered, it should have been uttered already. If it was right, it would be scientifically validated. It isn't. That's why we haven't got any validity from Einstein. We never will. There is no science for bending space-time. It's a reification fallacy.
Yeah, these aren't just cult heroes that we wish they were right.
No, that's exactly what they are. Your cult hero that you wish was right. If he was right, it'd have scientific empiricism to back this quote-unquote theory.
These are real. This is real.
This is definitely real. Like, what a real charlatan you are. Real convincing them that it is real. When it isn't. This isn't physics. Hasn't got any scientific empiricism. It's not based on natural phenomena. No, it isn't real. Bloody wizard.
Okay,
this is the
real.
What?
Didn't you see how he stressed that it's real? This is real.
Yeah, you don't need to plead with your audience about how real things are if they're scientifically validated. You just present the cause and effect reasoning with your validation of your if A then B statement, showing that A caused B, and therefore invalidating the null. A didn't cause B. You can show that, and there's no question. There's no appeal. You don't have to say, this is definitely real. You just go, look, A caused B. I validated that when I varied A to see if it caused B, and it did. Or, A didn't cause B. Look, I varied A, and it didn't cause B, the thing I was studying. Therefore proving that A doesn't cause B. There's no question about it. There's no pleading for how real it is. Unless you're a pseudoscience pretender clown talking about bending fabric of time, which doesn't exist. There are no geodesics. You can't bend time. You can't dilate time. You can't travel through time. You can't speed time up. Hello? You all getting this down?
Real universe we're talking about here. Okay, so...
No, it isn't. It's not the real universe. It's your pseudo-universe that you want to sell people with your heliocentric religion. This is not the universe.
Now watch. Let's keep going faster and faster. Let's go half the speed of light.
What? Speed of light? What, derived from our value we've debunked? Definitely not. 1 AU? Brian. Obviously, Brian's not going to add anything.
Three-quarters the speed. 90% the
What
speed
is
of
it?
light.
AU. Sorry, did he say, you want me to say something about the speed of light? Yeah, speed of light doesn't exist.
Perfect.
Speed of light is based on 4 pre-assumptions and 2 averages. One of them being the average distance between the heliocentric sun and between the globe Earth and the heliocentric sun over a 12-month period. Nobody ever measured the one-way speed of light.
Right? They calculated it. They didn't measure it.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, Arwin, if you weren't interrupting him.
Yeah. Yeah, the one-way speed of light was never measured, never will be probably. We don't even know if it has a one-way speed. And the two-way speed claim is purely a calculation based on pre-assumption and necessity for their model. Einstein himself said he just went along with the convention. It's known as Einstein's convention. That's what two-way speed of light is known as. Simply because he just went along with it, because he needed it for his model, general relativity.
Could the speed of light be considered a convention based within astronomy?
No.
Because it's based,
based
the
with
calculations are based on
astronomy. What's
astronomical
astronomy?
things,
Hold on.
right?
Let's define this term. What's astronomy, Arwin? Naming stars?
A presuppositional based system.
Well, it's a system of naming stuff. I mean, you can expand that out to making up stories about it, but no.
Astrophysics, then? I mean,
what?
It is based on these presuppositional systems that are typically found in astronomy. Would that make it astrophysics based then?
Who cares what you label it? Oh, and who cares? Brian's pointing out the
Origin.
presuppositions for the distance in terms of the light and how it's all based on these presuppositions. You're now saying, well, would you justify that if you called it astrophysics?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying let's trace what it is, where it came from.
Why?
I'll tell you where it came from.
Heliocentrism.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, of course. But in what way?
I'll tell you where it came from an R value that doesn't exist.
Perfect.
99% the speed of light. Time is ticking slower and slower and slower.
No, it isn't. No. The concept and description of how time flows could be summed up with entropy if you wanted to take it into the world of what you think is science. In this case, it isn't. It's natural law. But no, time isn't ticking slower. You're not controlling time. You're not making it speed up or slow down. You bloody wizard.
It's a paradoxical statement.
Yeah, it's complete
time
nonsense.
ticks slower. Well, you wouldn't know because it's the time. So if time goes slower, how would you know? Because it's like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because time doesn't go slower. The description of time as a concept, us describing the arrow of time, if you like, with entropy, which is what I tried to juxtapose it with to give it context. If you contrast what he's saying, he's literally describing the speeding up and slowing down of a conceptual description of something. That's very different.
Yes.
What they're actually describing.
My point is that if you would conceive as time as a substance like time space, right?
No, it
just go
isn't.
with it for a second, please, please. I'll keep it short.
No, I'm debunking it.
Oh, come on.
No,
man.
I'm not going to beg the question with you, Arwin. Why are you doing this? We're pulling apart Neil deGrasse Tyson's bollocks. And you were like, no, let's beg the question with him. If it was a concept, if it wasn't a concept, if it was a time dilation that we could dilate. I'm not going to, what? No, I'm debunking that. I'm not going to go along with it.
I'm helping you.
What
Just
Einstein
need
was
to not
referring
be
to.
triggered for a second and let me finish. Right? So within that conception, he then says, if time were going slower, but that's ridiculous because if time were to go slower or faster, how would we know since time is like our measuring stick of interaction? If time went quicker or slower, we wouldn't know because our experiences are bound.
Well, it sounded so different the second time you said it. Wow. I mean, that was literally verbatim what you said the first time. I heard.
Can I just add something here?
Couldn't tell. You were interrupting too much.
Nathan.
Yes.
Yeah, 1 second. The reason why Einstein, one of the main reasons why Einstein had to have the two-way speed of light claim within his general relativity is the space around gravity. Because within general relativity, there is no instantaneous action at a distance like there is there would have been in what they claim to be Newtonian gravity. gravity moves, right? Gravity waves move through the universe at the same rate as the two-way speed of light claim. So that's 671 million miles per hour within their claim. So that's one of the reasons why Einstein has to hold to that. And people have described that as big G within his, or he described it, I'm not sure. I think he described it as big G within his general relativity. That big G was the rate that gravity waves move through the universe. Big G moved at 671 million miles per hour. That's their claim. And that's why Einstein has this two-way speed of light within there. Calculation within his model is purely to make gravity not be something that is a force that acts on masses at a distance instantaneously. So it's taken away that instantaneous thing. And that's why one of the reasons why the two-way speed of light claim is even part of general relativity.
Watched the whole future history of the universe unfold.
You can watch the whole future history unfold. Let's just unpack that statement. That's a lot to take in. So what he's describing is seeing back in time when you look through a telescope. So because of the vast distances based on the R value that we debunk and the two-way speed of light that Brian's just debunked, you can assert that what you're looking at is stuff that happened millennia ago. But we're only having the light, which has got a journey and a distance and a speed, is only getting to us now, having travelled for a long time. So if you were to actually see that place at this time, it would be very different. But that light hasn't reached us yet because it's so far away, based on R that we've debunked.
But it's not the future, though. I mean, he said it incorrectly. You're not seeing future's history. No, that's just supposedly the past. So even within his conception, he said it wrong. I don't know why he keeps doing this.
Yeah, but I understand what he's driving at. I know what he's driving at, though.
In front of your eyes.
In front of your eyes being through a telescope.
Fractions of a second go by for you. As you go 99, there's a formula for this, of course, but 99.
This is going to be like spaghettification with Dr. Becky. He's going to now get this guy to move into fantasy land where he's moving at a massive speed. You watch.
99.9, 99.9.
Interesting bit I heard there, Nathan. I see. There's a formula for this, of course. Must be real then.
Yep. Maths is reality. No, it's not. It's a way of describing things. It's descriptive.
9% the speed of light.
Because you're the observer of that. But
now he's going to try and rationalize what he's gone through. So he's now reasonable. At least this guy's going to try and take it through some logical steps. Let's see how he does.
for you, your time has slowed to the point where as you observe the things that are not moving at the speed of light.
No, from your position, nothing would change according to his description that you agreed with earlier, but now you're in La La Land moving at the speed of light while you're observing things. Well, he's done a real number on you. These are great wizards.
You see them.
Nathan, the speed of light is only a constant outside of their atmosphere. It's not a constant within their atmosphere, because the atmosphere obviously slows down and bends light within their claims. So the speed of light is only a constant within their 10 to the minus 17, or 10 to the minus 17 Torr vacuum.
Right, so it's vacuum based, the calculation.
Yeah,
we're talking about space.
Vacuum based.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Speeding,
basically,
correct.
You see
Speeding
them
up.
unfold.
Correct.
Boom. God.
Correct.
That is insane.
Okay. So now,
It's total nonsense. Not insane. Well, insane, as in what? Not sane. Yeah, I agree. If you want to just define it that way, it's complete nonsense.
now watch.
Oh my God! Wait.
No, watch. Okay.
Wow.
So, I didn't even get to the part where I lose sleep.
Okay.
All right, we've got more. Wow, there's going to be more wizardry. Here we go. It gets better.
Okay.
Okay. That's what happens. By the way.
What? That's what happens? No, you took him into Fantasyland, watching his friend traveling at 99% the speed of light. What do you mean that's what happens? I see. You're cementing this illusion. Part of the hypnosis. Gotcha.
Shit happens.
Huh?
Just saying shit happens.
No, he's saying this is how it. He's selling the idea of this fantasy being the world the guy lives in. He's just building this up.
Particles that decay. You've heard of like radioactivity, right?
Yes.
It's one part of it decays and becomes another part and releases often deadly energy.
Yes.
Okay, radioactivity. All right.
Yeah, we've clarified. We're all clear.
Some particles, let's take, for example, the proton or the muon. One of these decays in like 6 minutes when it's...
I've got to be honest, this is going over my pay grade. Are you paying attention, Adam?
Proton would be a physical thing. That's how it's described. The proton would be a positive,
What about
and
muon?
electron would be a negative. Like so.
What
let's
about
just say-
muon? He said muon.
Electrons and that.
Muon.
No, he said
Everyone shut
proton
up.
before muon. He said
Muon,
proton
he said.
before muon. He said proton before muon. Muon. Go back, you'll hear it. He said proton
I
first.
heard him say it.
Yeah, but he said muon after proton.
Yeah, I get that, but what's the point you're trying to make in terms of taking it apart?
Because he's talking about the decaying of something. Something decaying. What does decaying mean?
Breaking
Dying.
down. Entropy.
What the
Breaking
hell's
down.
a
Dying.
muon?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, well, there you go. Right. But a proton is described as basically something of positive charge, a piece of matter of positive charge. The electron is described as a piece of matter of negative charge. Hydrogen gas, right? The molecular hydrogen is one proton and one electron. So that's what it is. It's one positively charged piece of matter, one negatively charged piece of matter. And that's why it's still, that's how it's described. And that's why it's number one on the periodic table or whatever, because it's, or on the molecular table, because it's the least dense of all matter, all known matter. So when he's talking about the breakdown of the proton, he's talking about basically he's going into E equals mc squared, where he's talking about how when things move at the speed, when matter move, well, what they claim, what was originally called mass, moves at the speed of light, then mass becomes energy. You know, this kind of thing. That's what he's talking about.
left out in the wild, okay, when it's not part of an atom.
Okay.
When it's not in captivity, I forgot which of these, but it doesn't matter for my example. Decays in like 6 minutes, okay? Okay. What happens
that would
if
be
you
hydrogen plus? That would be what's known as hydrogen plus.
take
One
that
proton,
particle and speed it up
hydrogen
in a
plus. That's
particle
how it's described.
accelerator?
So he's talking about
So you take a-
hydrogen. He's talking about hydrogen, just so the audience know what he's actually talking about, because he's going around in circles and talking nonsense. He's talking about turning hydrogen plus, which is just a proton, into energy. That's where he's going with this.
That's where his muon will come in then. So as that proton decays, a muon will be formed for microseconds, and then you get. Yeah, I assume anyway. I'm not too up on that detail. It's a while ago, but that's what I assume. He's just babbling, isn't he? He's doing that, stating some known facts, muons, throwing bits out there to kind of validate what his overall claim is. This has got nothing to do with it.
Well, let's see.
Let's
just see. Let's just see.
Let's just see. Physicality.
We'll see.
A community of these particles, speed them up, calculate, wait a minute, the
there we go. There's the connection.
internal wristwatch on these clocks says they should live longer. And sure enough, their decay time takes longer.
Right, so it's equating the decay time to the time that he's just juxtaposed with the watches in his orbital presupposition. There you go. It wasn't non sequitur, Adam.
Wow.
I wonder where he was going to, but it is the atomic clock.
Right.
Yeah.
That's, oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
So
No.
wow.
Yes.
And
No.
that becomes
No. Total bollocks, Neil.
becomes living proof of what Einstein said.
Living proof in Fantasyland that he just took you to, with the description of going 99% of the speed of light. Living proof. Yeah, you are. You embody that fantasy now, don't you, buddy? My God.
Yes.
Can I just point out that he's after just bringing cesium into the equation when he's talking about clocks? He's talking about atomic clocks and the decay rate of cesium. But what he's really referring to is E equals mc squared, which is the change of what he would term as mass into energy when mass is moving at the speed of light. That's why, which is basically the speed of time, the rate of time out in their vacuum is 671 million miles per hour. That's what he's going to, and how mass can become energy when it moves at that rate. That's where he's going. So do they use Do they use cesium in fusion reactors?
No.
No. Why don't they use it?
I don't know. Does it not react in the way that they
Yeah,
want to
'cause
boil
it-
the water?
Yeah, because it's Folex. That's why. Sorry. They use hydrogen because they can turn hydrogen into energy. Nobody uses cesium to turn anything into energy.
Can't go half the speed of light, but you
Right.
can accelerate a particle to do that. And it has
Yes.
an internal built-in clock that decays after a certain amount of time, and there they are taking longer to decay in the exact.
Yeah, so you already summarized it
So you're-
beautifully. You've just
Hold on.
Go on.
So he's described slowing entropy, not slowing time, but then he's said it's time that they're affecting, not entropy.
See,
That
if
is
he's
the
gone
dumbest
to a
thing I've ever
different-
heard.
If he's gone to a different place and the time's moving slower, then it's staying the same for that thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that was Arwen's point earlier.
But then he's going to now claim it hasn't changed.
That was my point, indeed.
Yeah, we got it twice.
Exact amount that Einstein predicts.
That is genius.
Predicts? Wow. I mean, in science, predictions are called hypotheses. They have an assumption of the cause, yet to be validated, of an effect you're studying in nature, and they have a null. That would be that which you assume causes the effect, and the outcome being negative. You don't cause the effect. That's a scientific prediction. Because there's just greasing the skids. Pseudoscience is what this actually is. But the guy's gone into La La Land, fantasized about travelling at the speed of light like Superman in a sky vacuum. Now he's all for describing it as proving the very fabric of our existence. Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson's a great wizard.
John,
What it
and
is that
Fry.
he's. Can I just? Sorry, Adam. Go on.
You go first because I've got a question for you. So you go first.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Okay, I was just going to say that what really happened is Einstein hijacked entropy, that is what we describe as entropy, and added a time to it. Because entropy, what is entropy? Things break down, change over time, basically. Right? We see
Yeah, let me just
effects.
summarize it in one statement. The arrow of time.
Yeah, right. So all he's done is what Einstein did is he went along with an already existing convention of a two-way speed rate of time, two-way rate calculation of time, and he gave an actual definitive calculation to entropy. If you think about it, that's what he's doing. That's what he did. He took basically entropy and manipulated it and turned it into some kind of a story where he gave time an actual rate that actually affected entropy. So John has a very good point. Go on, Adam. Sorry.
It's a question for you and John. So I'm just did a quick wiki search just on muons, and it's just this line. So if it was working in their supposed paradigm where they've taken it up out the atmosphere outside, it says this line up. Due to their greater mass, muons accelerate more slowly than electrons in electromagnetic fields. Now, forget the electrons. What you got there is a statement that muons behave differently at different speeds in and outside of electromagnetic fields. Well, that, in their paradigm, would be the cause of the differential. No time dilation, just with or without the presence of electromagnetic fields.
Yeah.
It's how Adam's just broken it down into an actual causal relationship that you could scientifically validate.
I think so.
No,
just
you haven't.
Just from what's in there, yeah.
That's what you've just done. I mean, you're using the scraps from their table, but again, the fact that you can do that, what's the word, off the cuff, just shows the
Off
different standards.
Wikipedia.
It just shows the different standards that we have here by comparison to this bullshit story that's being made up by Neil deGrasse Tyson for this comedian.
Well, is a muon an actual part of the molecular model, or is it something that has been added to it? Is it
That's
something
what I was
that
going
is
to question.
part of?
Exactly. I didn't want to sound stupid by asking the question. I'm not saying you are sounding stupid by asking, but that was the point that I was like, this is above my pay grade, because I've got a certain idea about a muon, but it's a long time since I even, looked at that subject.
So I'll read the definitions. I'm on the wiki page. The muon is an unstable subatomic particle with a mean lifetime of 2.2 microseconds, much longer than other subatomic particles. As with the decay of the non-elementary neutron, with a lifetime around 15 minutes, muon decay is slow by subatomic standards because the decay is mediated by weak interaction rather than the powerful strong interaction or electromagnetic interaction, and because the mass difference between the muon and its set of decay products is small, providing few kinetic degrees of freedom for decay. So it is a subatomic particle of small existence. They're these theoreticals, really, aren't they, in terms of how we understand the subatomic structure. So what sits beneath electrons, protons, and neutrons.
Theoreticals. I just want to clarify that as terminology. When you say theoreticals, you're talking colloquially, someone having a bit of a guess about what they might be, as opposed to backed by scientific empiricism.
It's saying this again sits outside of. I've not done this sort of stuff for 30 years. This level, so it sits outside of my organic chemistry. This is more standard physics of particle physics, and I don't think this is being shown. This is more being calculated.
I was going to say something about that.
Yeah. Go on, John.
Because the muon is supposedly not able to travel faster than the speed of light, because they have that set speed. It's an attempt, I think, to describe things happening faster than the speed of light. So they claim the muon actually shrinks the distance between 2 points.
What's the muon?
No way.
This is
hold on. John's clarifying the web of deceit and how when you find a crack, you have to put it back together in a way that makes it kind of work when it doesn't. The maths for the speed doesn't work with this instance. So what do? Well, it's not violating the speed of light. It's shortening the distance. Therefore, the speed is still well within the capabilities of Einstein's mathematics. That's what John's saying, right, John?
Yeah. It's kind of the problem of action at a distance and quantum mechanics. The problems that brings to relativity. I think it's an attempt to bridge that.
Yeah,
I just Googled it. A muon is a convention, basically, about a minimum particle size.
No, it's
that's what it said.
It's a cosmic ray.
What?
Put simply,
May I say
it's one
something
of
real
the
quick?
early points of particle physics, isn't it? So it's when we first describe these things, we see them tracing, leaving trace marks, and they're described as cosmic rays, and we think they're coming from space. So, but I think a muon is that. But again, it's now defined as a subatomic particle.
So it's basically a migrating convention. It's a concept.
No,
a particle theory-based concept.
What it is an attempt by them to physicalize electromagnetic forces. That's what it is. While they're trying to hijack the effects that we describe as entropy. That's what.
That's what particleism does, right? I mean, that's what the particles theory always, like modeling it like that. That's what they try to do. But it does sound like a convention, like an idea, not actually anything that's like physical, just like energy.
When it comes to protons, electrons, and neutrons, they are based in the physical world. When they're talking about subatomic particles, they're not talking about anything. They're trying to physicalize something that is basically forces beyond our knowing, which is electricity, magnetism, etc.
It's defined from squiggly lines at a hadron collider.
But I get into somewhere with this. As part of what was said by Adam, the definition of a muon. What they're trying to do is physicalize something that doesn't have physicality, that they can't see and they don't understand. And at the same time, while they're also trying to hijack entropy for their, basically, which is what Einstein did for his general relativity. But a muon has a decrease or a decay time of 2.2 microseconds. Now, there's 1 million microseconds in 1 second. So that's 2.2 millionths of a second. Whoever figured that out? Nobody. It's nobody. This is complete and utter nonsense. It's
So you say they
Nathan.
arbitrarily just decided on that number, or did they just average it out?
Well, they made up a muon and they made up the calculation that goes along with it. That's what
Right.
they did. Because,
So it's like the concept of ideal gas. They just put it like that, right?
well, ideal gas is something that we can show. You can't show a muon. You can only show electric charge.
Owen's saying an ideal gas.
Right,
There
just
is-
like ideal gas doesn't
Okay.
exist.
Owen's right. There is no ideal gas. I don't know if it's comparable, but there's. I think D Rose wanted to ask something, and then 10th. Probably scrambling.
I'm
for his
sorry,
mic.
I'm just trying to figure out what this is.
So I think D Rose wanted to ask a question because he specifically said, "Can I ask something?" And now he's not coming off mute. Okay, 10th. Go ahead.
Yes, since they don't have R, can we be on from this point and listen to the rest of the video?
So we don't make this stuff up, okay? Yes.
Why would you have to clarify that? Because you do exactly what you do, just like a charlatan. Oh dear. When you know the magic trick and you hear the con coming out of the mouth, it is quite disgusting, isn't it? We're not making
Trust
this
me.
shit up. That's exactly what you're doing.
Yes, it is genius. It's like
Trust
triple
me.
genius.
Trust me. You know, when somebody's getting ready to lie to you, the first thing they say is trust me.
All right. Now, let's take this to an extreme level.
Right.
Let's go so fast.
Let's get so fast in Fantasyland. Why? Of course, because the guy's reifying this from La La Land, isn't he? So let's do something while we're sat here doing nothing in your mind.
No,
That
wait
we're
till you hear
going
this. Imagine Top Gun, right? Speed. Imagine the speed. Let's get there.
That's cars.
Speed of light itself. Right. Well, we can't do that because we're made of material substance, and there's no way to do that. But there are.
Hold on, wasn't time a fabric? I thought we would be bending it. Isn't it a physical material substance? Isn't it a dimension in Einstein's reified mathematics? But we can't experience it. But stay there in La La Land. You still with me in La La Land, traveling at the speed of light? We're back in the room.
Are things that travel at the speed of light. And what is that?
Those would be photons.
Yes. Thank you. I like those would be. I like your finger gesture.
Yeah, so what was with the idea of us travelling at these speeds then? Or watching your mate travelling at these speeds with time dilation? Now we're just talking about photons. Okay.
That would be, I would say, what travels at the speed of light? Light does.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. No, we can debunk that based on all of the assumptions you must make to make that assertion. But you've got to keep saying it so he knows that that is the case because you say it because you're science, aren't you? When you say it.
I was about to say light.
So if photons had a clock.
What? My God, we've got burning bra particles of gas at the Carmen line. This guy's got photons with watches.
Yeah, man.
The
Check
clock
the
would
time.
Never tick.
Nice.
Nice. No, just bollocks.
Which means.
Does it? It's gonna. You can tell us what this means based on your nonsensical statement you've just made about reified photons with watches not ticking, which means unicorns are or whatever he makes up.
When I go to a mountaintop, as I did in graduate school, to observe the center of the Milky Way galaxy.
So when I go up a mountaintop to look at lights in the sky.
For stars.
Yeah, we're looking at lights in the sky.
That emitted their light 30,000 years ago.
What?
Wow.
No, definitely not. What? Based on their distance, based on a reification of the horizon as a leading edge and things falling around it in a presuppositional orbit, and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, and the derivation of the R value onto Venus. No, we
Hold on.
debunked all of that nonsense,
Hold on.
Tyson.
Well, the clock didn't tick, so it's not 30,000 years ago.
Well, yeah,
traveling
because
through.
they're getting to, but there is no tree. They're getting to that point.
The gaps
You know
of
the way
interstellar
you know the way they
space,
describe that
and they
in-
move through space, come through Earth's atmosphere, they come down into the
Air isn't sphere-shaped, just to clear that up. They go through space, what a sky vacuum, enter the sphere-shaped air, not filling the container. No, let's cover that. We didn't do it, Becky, but we'll do it with you, just in case you don't come back to it. Air doesn't take the shape of a sphere. That's not how gas behaves. At most sphere-shaped air, they come from the vacuum into what? A barrierless system that gas is just hovering around a sphere-shaped Earth in the vacuum? Definitely not. That's a second law of thermodynamics violation. Definitely not. As you entered, you'd pass all the gas vacating from wherever it came from into the availability of volume that you claim you're coming from. That would be an empty space you call space. Yeah, what you're describing here is a second law of thermodynamics violation. Definitely not.
telescope, they reflect, go back to my detector, and land on my CCD chip.
Yeah, all you're doing is describing you photographing lights in the sky. But then asserting your R-based time values, no, we can debunk all of those.
That photon, when it was born, at the star that emitted it.
Yeah, you're going to go on to the bullshit distances that you need R for. And the assertions that come with presuppositions of orbital motions and the derivations of the R that give you the distances. And the presuppositions of Venus having the same R value to give you the scaling values. We debunked every aspect of this. You can get right in the camera, you little wizard. Tell your audience looking right into the lens of your camera, because you're not looking at the person that you're communicating this to. You're basically looking at yourself in the lens of your own camera while you lie to the world about what the world isn't, with this total lie.
Was detected at my telescope in the same instant.
Wow.
According to the photon itself.
No, the photon itself didn't have a watch. I know you've told him that it's got a ticking time bomb on it. It's bollocks.
Live fast, die hard.
No, it's just nonsense, mate.
The photon has
no... What he's after doing there is contradicting himself. Because when he's saying that the photon is being viewed by him from this distance at the same time as it's being born, basically, is what he's saying, that would take away light having any speed. That'd be instantaneous.
Yep. Yeah, it's contradiction he just expressed a few minutes ago, too, when he said that the speed of light time would not pass, but then he said 30,000 years ago. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Knowledge of that trip.
Right. He denies a journey, doesn't he? Is the point he's making there. He's denying in the quantum level that any journey takes place, yet he's assigning a distance for his heliocentric needs.
Exactly, Adam. He's actually admitting. He's actually admitting that there is no. He's admitting underhandedly that there is no measured speed to light. There is only an instantaneous effect.
Exist for it.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm saddened that many of these photons like hit people tanning on the beach, you know, and imagine traveling 30,000 years and land on someone's buttocks.
Yep.
No, it hasn't travelled. Yeah, by your own standards that's just been laid out by my panel. Further to that, the assertion of the distance that you say it'd have to travel is based on all the presuppositions of the R value and orbital mechanics, which we've debunked. So no, definitely not.
Just listening to what he just said, that he also denies the time of the journey. But he puts it in the terms of relativity of the photon. So as far as the photon's concerned, no time passed.
When
Very
you could have
sad.
with the telescope I collected, I'm now decoding the nature of the universe.
That's what this is all about, isn't it? With this bullshit story that he's just told you and you nodding along and going, wow, now this is where he gives you the big sell. What I'm really selling you is the nature of your entire world. That's what we're really doing here, mate. You understand? I'm the arbiter of everything. That's what's really happening here.
And some photons go right on by Earth and are still moving, but they have no internal time clock.
What? Why did you describe him as having a little watch that doesn't tick then?
Wow.
Yeah, wow, total contradiction. Wow, amazing.
And they're just traveling through like, I hope when I'm born, I hit a telescope.
Yeah, I hope I can reify these particles into having emotions too and watches too. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with a good wizard in front of you.
Damn, you're born and you hit a telescope.
Bam, you're in the room as a photon with a watch and emotions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You bloody wizard. You're conning the world. I mean, it's great because you're up on this pedestal of being the arbiter of everyone's universe. You're not. You're just a wizard.
Yeah, I would. That would be an interesting. But what do I want to be when I grow up? Or,
Right.
you know, or the instant I am emitted, where am I going to be?
Yeah, when you're reifying yourself, when you are the anthropomorphization of a photon, you're not. You're a clown.
I like to be. Yeah.
Right. And so, just the idea that light can move across the universe
is nonsense that we can debunk,
and have no. And not age. This is
not age. What? Not have a time effect on it. Like the arrow of time, have no entropy. So what? We're into the complete doublespeak contradiction now, not just the subtle one my panel pointed out. We're into blatant contradiction doublespeak. Won't age? No. There's this thing called entropy. It's the arrow of time. The thing you've been hijacking up until now.
A fascinating fact.
Age would involve physicality, would it not?
Right.
Because he's talking about the decaying time of light and that there is none.
Yeah, it's completely contradicting himself. The thing you got the guy on the guest, or his guest, I don't know which way around it is. Presumably this is his channel, Star Talk. I don't know whose channel it is. It doesn't matter. The thing he's got him nodding along with is the reification of time, travelling, decay, all of those ideas. Now he's completely contradicting that. It doesn't age. Right, arrow of time ended for this. Entropy stopped. No, another violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is more than fascinating.
Because, one second, Nathan, very quickly. Because there's the one thing what we can observe that isn't affected by entropy, and that's light, isn't it? What entropic effects happen to light that we observe?
It's kind of the other way around, isn't it? If the closest description I've got from a flat earther for the sun was the biggest entropy generator known to man. So when you talk about it as a cause, you can talk about how light can break down things and cause entropy to speed up, if you will. But that's describing the effect of the light, therefore making the light the cause. But you're asking about how it's an effect, which is kind of hard to square.
Yeah, because sunlight will break things down. It breaks things down within the air, within the oceans. Photo dissociation is one of the terms for it. So sunlight does do that. So light does cause an entropic effects, but light itself is not affected by entropy. It doesn't have physicality.
Light is powerful enough to cleave a covalent bond. That's part of the way in which entropy works. It plays a big role in that, having effects on molecules and causing decay in them, actually smashing those bonds, which is amazing, really.
Yes, it is.
It breathes electrons and photoelectric, materials. That's awesome.
The stuff that gets studied in modern science, you mean? Absolutely. It's the most exciting thing you can get. We say so often we don't know what the sun is, but when you look at modern science, they're getting closer and closer when they study light to getting to the answers to some of these questions that have been inserted by heliocentrism so that we don't ask the questions. The reality being modern science are creeping ever and ever closer to being able to actually give cause and effect reasoning in their explanations when it comes to light and what it does. Now, when we're scratching the surface saying, well, no, it seems to cause entropic effects, isn't that amazing, as Adam's just described? And it is. But what is it? Well, okay, we've got the sun. Where do we go from there? Well, that's a world of possibility that everybody's eyes might be open to. Unless it's a burning ball of gas in violation of the second law of thermodynamics in a sky vacuum with entropy not taking hold of even the gas we breathe. I mean, then we wouldn't be questioning any of this, would we? The world of possibility and the majesty that it is wouldn't be presented to us. And isn't if we're a heliocentrist. That's what this is all about. Pull down the curtain in front of Truman and tell him it's already all been figured out. Don't concern yourself with what entropy is. Again, this was slightly my objection. I've got to be honest. When you guys were all discussing it, you included Adam. Occasionally I'd pipe up and say, well, doesn't that mean we can figure out what causes it? Surely this can go through science based on my understanding of it. And you all kind of laughed at me. We're like, we're never going to figure out what causes entropy. It's like, well, in my mind, as much as I step back and say this is above my pay grade, I do recognise that isn't that the journey of discovery that science is currently on when they look at light?
Well, Adam, you go ahead because I was addressed at you. I'll go after you if you have to respond.
Oh no, just I can't see how you could science the underpinning information that's and coding that makes everything work to explain why hot goes to cold. I wouldn't know where you would start to say why. You can demonstrate it, you can show its uses, its causes, but to explain why is just, I don't know. Why does hot always go up even?
It's the point at where you get to the manipulation of the cause that you're going to have a ton of problems.
Well, there is no cause. You see what I mean? You're not trying to get to a cause. You're trying to get to the whole reason of it working. You pass the causes. So the fundamentals of what sets up the cause and effect relationships. That's where you're at when you're saying you want to understand that. You pass science to me.
Go on, John. What problem? What's the problem? I know what the problem is, but I want you to say it.
The cause of what is?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. You're going to have a hard time with that.
No. That's not what I thought you were going to go to. The what is the description. We've already got that, right? The second law of thermodynamics already is the what is. I'm talking about the cause, and talking about stopping the arrow of time in order to vary something to start it. That seems impossible. That's where I thought you were going to go.
Well, that's kind of attached to that, isn't it? I mean, you're talking about altering what is. How are you going to physically do? You can't. Just can't.
I know you say that, but it doesn't alter that there is an effect to observe, isn't there?
Yeah, but can you tell you're making me and John feel dirty here?
Oh, yeah, I know. Why not? You made me feel dirty when you all laughed at me. I'm like, this could go through science. Ah, Nathan, don't be so silly. Well, now I've pondered it for about a year and a half. I feel justified, gotta be honest.
Let me throw something a bit philosophical, maybe, towards you. The rate of entropy is in direct accordance with the decay time of light. But light can't have a decay time because it doesn't have any physicality that we know about.
Well, that helped. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. It doesn't help much, does it?
No.
But...
I mean, John's right. As much as I'm knocking it, John's right, and that I've pondered too. You can't stop the arrow of time to assert what causes it to move in that direction. So you can't do it. And when you get down to descriptions of things like near absolute zero, what about absolute zero? If you could achieve that, then maybe you could start things, life. But then you're God, basically, aren't you?
Right. That's one of your problems is you're giving it an arrow. Entropy doesn't have a orthogonality, right? So time doesn't have orthogonality either. It's just a concept.
I have an objection.
Hold on, but no time, no entropy.
Hold on, don't just
Entropy
excuse me
and
of
time are
reifying it.
interlinked.
I've got to describe it somehow as Iron rumpuses the shit out of this discussion. No, I've got to describe it, and I'm not reifying it when I say the arrow of time. That isn't my intention. My crude description would be far better if I was capable of reciting the second law of thermodynamics back to you in its entirety. Well, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm not capable. Number one, I understand the basic principles, but I'm not reifying that arrow. That isn't what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that in that process that has an effect to study, you can't stop the process. Like boiling water. Well, why does that boil? Well, let's take some that isn't and make it. Well, let's take the arrow of time and stop it moving forward so we can start it moving forward. is kind of what I would assume would be the process of validation of cause and effect with entropy. Therefore, to do that, you take them back to the ontological primitives in terms of where it all began, and therefore where entropy began. And what do you end up with? Well, you end up with an outside influence to it all, aka God, whatever you want to call it, creator. Well, I'm not that. So that's where it leaves me in my conclusion. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I want it off my chest.
Nathan, their cause.
So we get back. Hold on. I had an objection.
I'm in the middle of something. My goodness.
I had an objection 5 minutes ago, long before you arrived.
Well, really? I've been here for since the
Just
start
get
of
the
the show.
ejection
I've been
out.
trying to get something.
We'll be
in.
10 minutes with this, otherwise 10th. Go ahead, 10th. Go ahead, Kiwi.
Yeah, I had an objection when Brian said light has no physicality. Define physical.
Uh-oh.
Density that we can measure. A density that we can measure.
No, that's not physical. Physical is matter or energy. You're saying light has no energy?
Well, I
That's
wouldn't
what I wanted to
energy.
stop,
How can you describe energy as physical?
Just say no, and then we can move on to 10th.
How can I describe energy as physical? But
yeah, because
by the energy that it
just
provides.
Sorry, say that again.
How can I?
Say that again.
Physical means having chemical formula structure, charge, momentum, or spin, or remember matter or energy? Remember that first law of thermodynamics thing? Or energy. It contains kcals, kilojoules, or millielectron volts. Does light have electron volts?
Physicality. Yeah, but it doesn't have
That's
It
physical.
doesn't matter what it has. It doesn't have physicality. It doesn't have a density you can measure.
Yeah, that. Oh my God.
If you go back to what I said was that it has no density, no physicality that we can measure, or no density that we're aware of.
No
it has to have a
density.
density.
That
to
doesn't
have
mean it's not
physicality.
physical. Define physical.
Well, the physical for me would be physical matter.
Not
being
for
made of
you.
matter.
No, not for you. What's the definition of physical in physics?
I don't care I don't care who defined it differently.
You have to care.
Why do I have to care about it?
Don't do that. Come on, Brian. Don't make me step in.
No, I'm not going to just bend down to something that is not logical.
Bend down. You're not bending down.
Defining, not bending.
Yeah, but defining physicality. If I define physical and they add in the word energy,
Not you defining
right, with that.
What?
Right? No, not me. If I go and look at the definition and they add in the word energy, to me that is illogical.
Well, that makes you wrong. It's illogical because it makes you wrong.
But energy is a convention.
Can we move on? Look, there's been enough torture for Brian. Can we just move on? 10th, please save us from this. I think QE's made his point. He's laboured the point. Brian's basically conceded, saying it's illogical if you looked it up and showed that energy was in there. Right. Okay. 10th.
Yes. The whole point of this is they are trying to eradicate the creator, so time is the cause, and that becomes the creator. So does time have a beginning?
Yeah, good question, because yes, time is their god and gravity is their description when they hijack entropy in this description. So gravity is their god would be more accurate if you asked me. But I know what you're driving at, and you're right.
Okay, that's just a question to the panel. Does time have a beginning?
Yes.
How could it have a beginning?
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
Entropy in our system is what? Is based on what?
If in a fanciful world that I'm going to describe, just to make my point, we rewound time to the beginning, we reversed entropy back. Not that that's possible; it's only going in one direction. But at the start of that process would be the quote unquote beginning. There'd be a starting point. That, as I said earlier, takes you back to the ontological primitives and takes you back to an outside influencer, a creator, a god.
Right. The lowest.
Go on, John.
I was going to say the lowest point of entropy, right? Where there is the most amount of usable energy in this system is the beginning. And that is also where time had to begin.
Correct. So what's that? What's
but
that?
The creator.
What's that? That's essentially a nothing, with nothing but infinite possibilities, isn't it? When we know about how light behaves and how things develop into actuality. So what have we got? We've got a world of infinite possibilities and energy that hasn't been created yet. Well, what have we got to have that exist in a way that we can conceptualize and physically experience? An outside influencer creating it.
We're in a closed system, and God has no beginning and no end.
The creator may not, but what we experience, I definitely say does and has, and is even described in your own texts, the Bible, as having that
That's my
exact
point.
beginning.
That's my whole point. So what they're doing is this is a long war against God's creation story. And so they need to take God off the pedestal for the reason we exist and go into time as the cause. Now, I put another video next to this joke of a video with Tyson and his comedian host. Once you finish this one, you need to do that one and see where that goes. And those two guys are on a much more serious, less joking level. And that's why I put these two back to back for you to review. I'm done.
Dealing with
I don't
children.
even know how to describe the beginning of time. Would you call it the lowest levels of entropy or the...
Why do we have to rephrase it? The start, the beginning.
The time, there is no beginning to something that is just a concept.
That would only be the outside influencer that had that attributable, ascribable to it, like 10th just did. But what we experience does. You can describe a beginning. I can conceptualize it. There must have been a beginning for us in what we physically experience. The arrow of time had a starting point.
Yeah, but that's the beginning of creation.
Yeah,
Time is something that we...
what we experience. Yeah. The bit that we experience had a beginning.
Yeah, but time is something that we describe, and we reify into something.
Yeah, so. But that's why I said earlier, with my example, crude though it may be.
Beginning starts with us.
Yeah, I get that.
It has a beginning.
I get that, but I can still describe something that happened in history last year, can't I? Hold on, I'm just going to close this door.
Yeah, of course.
Can you guys define time for me, please? Time, what is it?
QE does the best job of this. You're still around, QE. I'm going to go make a brew.
A convention based on the path of the sun.
Best you could call it as a conceptual medium, I think, like QE describes it. But...
Well, time itself is something that's based on that.
I'll say my definition of time is a man-made convention of the measurement of change. That's my definition.
Somebody holler.
If you guys are...
Hold on, let me just level up Paul because he's really loud. Say again.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's mine. I've turned up Discord and I need to turn people down so I've got more headroom for people who are quiet. Anyway, just say a couple more sentences.
I said I was asking what the definition of time was, QE, and I gave my definition of time. I said it's a man-made convention of the measurement of change. That's my definition. So I just want to know what you guys' definition was.
Not bad, not bad.
I'd sort of say it was, as it says in the scriptures, it's the lights in the sky are a measure of time for seasons. So that's what I see time as, the sun movement for one of them. God created the sun. So when the sun was created, that was probably the beginning of time as we know it.
Paul, can you mute?
That's not the definition.
There we go. There he is, QE. You have a description where you say it's, I can remember the end bit, in which all known things in the universe that we call it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Time is the conceptual medium that we find ourselves in.
Sounds good to me.
Can I ask a question about light, please?
I mean, the measurement of something isn't what that thing is. Follow?
Well, I think, I know what you're saying is but I mean, time we use clocks and stars and things to measure it. as a way to measure it. But if there are no changes occurring, is time occurring? If no change, like if nothing's happening, no event is occurring, does time still exist?
Time is the conceptual medium. You can't get out of it. So I don't know. Very difficult to say.
Is that
Well,
like
that's why
saying
I asked it.
is it like saying it's a
Hold on a second.
continuous cycle?
Well, think about what I'm asking though. If no event is occurring, nothing is happening, does time exist?
It's just an association with time. That's not time itself.
Right. Well, right. It's an association, but they're connected. They're interrelated.
Yes.
So you can't. Right. So if no event is happening, does time cease to be, or does it still have? Does time still exist? So I think that's the question I asked.
Paul,
Too early in the morning.
You're going to answer. Paul, there's a football game today with USA and Iran, and I know Adam's going to be watching it. So I'm going to say, Adam, are you aware there's a game on today? He says, yeah. I go, what time is it going to be played? What am I doing here?
Well, you're ascribing, there's a series of events that will happen between now and when the ball game occurs, right? And then we've attributed a clock to that, right? We put 60 minutes, an hour, 12 hours, 24 hours, whatever, to say between now and the time that game is going to occur. These sequence of events will occur. We just put time as a measurement of those sequence of events.
Yeah, but Paul, what I said originally was time was a man-made concept based on the movement of the sun, because that's where the clock comes from, the daily rate of the sun.
Well, does the sun change position? Remember the word keyword. Does it change position in the sky?
Apparently, it does. Yeah, from what we see it moving in the sky.
So we tie things that occur here. Hold on a second. We tie events that occur here on Earth to the thing that is happening in the sky. But okay, if nothing was happening on the Earth, hold on a second. If nothing was happening on the Earth, which means all events stopped and the sun stopped moving, would time still exist?
Well, time doesn't exist to begin with. It's only a concept, as I said, a man-made concept.
Well,
it's
that's
only
why
something
said
that
it's a
we
man-made-
made up based on the movement of the sun.
Are we going to get to the end of this video?
So
Just 'cause it's only got a couple
can't
of
not
minutes.
exist if it doesn't exist in the first place.
You've got like literally 1 minute left on this video.
I mean, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah. So that is light, the age of light. It's like it doesn't age at all.
The age of light.
I am convinced that all of you guys secretly microdose and smoke weed. That's
another episode. That's all.
You on about? Did anybody catch that?
Yeah. He said it's the age of light. It doesn't have an age. And then the comedian says, I believe you guys microseed weed and smoke it. So you got all this stuff when you were high. So making it up.
Yeah. So that's what I thought he said. So he's implying that the guy's just off his head with all this nonsense, basically, isn't he?
Yeah, same.
The microdose is a microdose of LSD.
Oh, okay.
People microdose with mushrooms and stuff. So he's talking about LSD and weed. Yeah.
In other words, like
So he
when
said
we'd
it's
say, are you smoking shrooms? Are you nuts?
Yeah, same exact thing. Yeah.
All right, Chuck, we're calling it quits there.
All right.
Okay, so that was it. I just wanted to take it off screen.
Well, he had reason to say it because he says the age of light, and then he says light doesn't age. Are you smoking weed?
Right, that's how I took it.
Now, the next video that I have right before this one, is got to be the second one played. And it'd be great if QE is here for this one because this is the higher level Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Tomorrow.
Okay, fine. But it's the higher level of the same argument.
Okay, while Q is here, can I ask
tomorrow.
Go on,
While Q is here, can I ask a quick question, please?
Yeah, you're a bit muffled for some reason, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Tell me, I'm going to play something from one of his videos, and I hope the sound comes through.
Now, first, to know for the existence of the witch path information. Every double slit experiment, every delayed choice experiment, every quantum erasure experiment, every experiment that combines any of 1, 2, and 3 show exactly the same result. If the witch path information is known or can be known, no interference. That means matter existing. Conversely, if the witch path information is not known and can't ever be known, there is interference. That equals no matter existing yet. We already went over this example in my quantum mechanics presentation. So,
okay, so hopefully you heard that. The question I have is, there seems, I'd never really caught this word matter coming up before. I always thought we were just thinking about light and what it was doing. Could you make a connection for me from what were on those light plates, or in a sense, the collapse or the intactness of the if it's intact, I think you said no matter. If it collapses, then there's matter. How do we make that jump?
There is no jump. When you're talking about quantum mechanics, when you're talking, you could shoot, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's light or anything else. Everything else acts the same way. Lucky balls, whatever you send through the double slit, it acts the same way as light. That's where I was getting at. Follow?
Okay, because light seems to be in a special class for me, and this discussion you were just having about with Brian about energy and matter, or not energy, but but matter is very solid to me, right? And I'm just wondering if there's a simplified way of going from what those men saw or perceived in that experiment, that basically they could say, I actually saw matter come into existence.
Yeah, I just told you. Can somebody repeat it? Maybe translate it to him?
I think QE, his problem, or I sense his problem, is he doesn't have a proper definition of light to begin with. What's hitting the plate?
Whatever. Okay, whatever it is, right?
What's hitting, hang on. What's hitting? No, not whatever it is. What's hitting the plate?
Photons.
Light, right?
Yes. Photons of light.
And what's it? Yes. Is it leaving a history, a mark?
Yes, it is.
And what has to be, whatever it is, to do that? What does it have to be in order to do that?
It has to be something material, I would say. Yeah.
All right. So I was driving home from church on Sunday with my granddaughter, and we were looking at a tree at a stoplight, and the tree was kind of pointing sideways instead of vertically straight up. And I said, "Do you see that tree?" She goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Why do you think it's bent sideways?" She goes, "Because of the wind." And I go, "Yeah, but you don't see wind. But the wind is forcing of its natural patterns in that area for that tree to be bent. So I feel wind, I don't see wind, but it moved that tree in the direction of its course throughout the years." So what is light? What is light doing to the plate?
It's making an impression on the plate that the whoever was doing the experiment saw. They actually saw
Right.
that.
So just like the wind was making an impression on the tree and the way it's going to stand throughout the years.
Okay, but please hear me out. They're making two different patterns depending on the observer, right? If it collapses, it's a different pattern than if it's intact. We agree?
Nah, nope.
That's a different.
Not because I'm an observer. We don't agree with that one, but we're going to get off the trail here. There's a very poignant point in that presentation. It's subtle, but I made sure and accentuated it. You've got two patterns, right? You have the pattern the collapse pattern, right? Where
Yes.
there's, and right beside it, there's a wave pattern. Remember that?
Yes.
If you listen very closely, I'll say it's profound. Many people don't catch it, but that second pattern, that interference pattern, what that's saying is, if there was no monitor or, God, it's too early in the morning. If there's no what do they call them?
Measurement?
No, what it's hitting.
Nor knowledge.
No, if there's no plate, if there was no plate there, right? Then nothing would exist. It's existing as a wave function. But since there's a plate there, that's telling you that it's a wave function. You follow? It's very subtle.
It's recording it.
Yeah, but it's a wave function. That means if that wasn't there, holy shit.
Man, this is heavier than I. Okay.
No, it's
Maybe
not heavier. It's right there.
Yeah. See, for me, I just see the men doing the experiment. They look and they see one pattern. Okay. Then that tells them, when they then bring in the observer, they see another pattern.
Negative. Doesn't have anything to do with an observer.
Oh no, but
Can
it's
I try and
okay.
simplify it for him, Kiwi? See if I've got it right. Are you saying to him that the only reason it exists is because of the plate?
Yeah. Now I finally got it. I couldn't get to the detector. I was thinking receptacle. All right, so yeah, so like I said, go back to that presentation, right? And there's two detectors. One is giving you the collapse pattern. The other one's giving you the wave function. What that wave function pattern is telling you, that if that detector wasn't there, then nothing would exist yet. Do you follow? Now, on the other one, it doesn't matter whether that detector's there. It's giving you the baseballs hitting the backstop. Are you following? It's very subtle, but very profound.
Oh, no, I have to go and do this, look through it again, and because I'm telling you, it's only last night that I caught that the word matter was being
you're hung
used.
up on matter. There's more profound thing there. I thought you were hung up on the difference between the patterns.
Oh yeah, what I'm saying is the patterns, the difference in the pattern. One tells me that it equals. Okay, it says if there's interference, no matter.
Correct.
Then if there's interference, there is matter.
If there's interference, there is no matter exist. Nothing's existing there. Without the detector, if the detector was gone, it's showing you what would happen if the detector was gone. If that, I know it sounds crazy, but you understand that?
I want to say yes, but I'm just something's not clicking in. You see,
What Kiwi is trying to say to you, Humble, is that it only exists because the detector is there to detect it. If the detector wasn't there, then there would be nothing to detect. Maybe that's not 100% the right way to say it.
The detector is dictating what came through those slits?
No.
If anything came through those
No.
slits?
No, you're missing it.
Sorry, I've got to clarify the confusion that's now come in. There's a different confusion. There's two different detectors. So there's the slit detector, which is the arbiter of the information, the causal information. That's one detector. The detector that you put over the slit that gathers the information. Not an observer, not a person. The information. Acquirable at a later date by a knower, a person. There's also a different detector. That's the photographic plate or sensor. So that's what we're talking about. QE saying, if there wasn't a sensor at the end of the room to fire, and if there was no photograph, then there's no document of it ever happening. That's what he's saying. What you've got at the end, the sensor we're describing here, is the photograph or photographic plate. It's literally gathering documentation of something that, had you not got that photograph, there'd be no documentation of it. That's what I think QE's saying. Hopefully he'll just say yes.
Another thing, that the second one, the interference pattern, that's showing a wave function, is what I'm trying to say. Wave functions have no physicality. However, it's showing the wave function. It's giving you that representation just to let you know that this is a wave function. Follow?
But it's a wave function of light.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Let me try a different way.
It's a wave function of light. You were just in the discussion with Brian about what the light is.
Yeah, but that really doesn't have anything to do with it.
Let me try and break it down a different way. So you're describing the existence of something, right? Let's say that thing is a television broadcast. So you can say, we're going to describe whether or not there is or isn't a television broadcast. You with me? Now, in this comparison, we say, well, the way we determine that there isn't a television broadcast in existence is by showing the static interference on a screen.
Exactly.
And you go, well, but there is the signal, there's the interference signal. You go, no, that's showing you that there's nothing there. You go, but there is something there, there's the interference there, and round we go.
Very well done. Thank you.
Okay. I have to go and try and review this in my mind, trying to recall what you say, but thanks very much.
See you in about 8 months.
Okay. Okay.
Or for me, 2 years. 2 years to be able to summarise what I've just done based on QE saying it, not my understanding in the first point. QE's verbalised it. I've then understood it, comprehended it, and reworded it. Yeah, 2 years for me to be able to do that.
What you're saying, if I could summarize it, correct me if I'm wrong, is when the wave function collapses, that's when it's no longer static and you have a reception from the TV station.
Yes.
It's the terminology. I don't know if it's intentional. Because what you're describing when you describe something becoming actual is the wave function collapse. What does that sound like to you? If something collapses, like a building collapses, it's no longer in existence, right? Well, in this case, it's the complete opposite. What wave function collapse actually means is actualization. That's what it means. It's the reverse of what you would think it means. So you're saying when there is a wave function, it doesn't exist in actualization terms. It's just a probability. Just a probability when you're describing the wave function that you are, and this is the issue that Humble's got, seeing. Like I described seeing the static on a television screen. Yeah, you've got to be able to describe not seeing something or something not existing. And in this case, the not existing is the not being those two lines, not actualized, not being able to say, yeah, the next hit will be on line 1 because it's gone through slit 1. Not being able to do that. Well, how can you even begin to describe something not happening unless you've got something to physically account for it? Well, you can account for there being no TV signal if you can show the static on the TV, and you can show there being no actualization of the wave function that collapsed. See how that sounds backwards? It becomes real when the wave function collapses? That sounds so stupid. But that's just how they term things, and it's correct because it's gone from probability of, or distribution of probability, into an actualization, no longer a distribution of probability. So we collapse the distribution of probability. That's what it actually means. It's so complicated.
Oh
It's-
yeah, for sure.
If I can add to that, I mean, from what I'm understanding from the time QE taught on this, and it's been a while since I've seen the videos, is that the photo, and based on what he said today, and correct me if I'm wrong, QE, the photographic plate, when it shows the interference pattern, it's actually a metaphor for nothing exists. When the wave function collapses and you get the two lines, it becomes actualized. So how does that go from nothing to something? And it's based on the words that are used in the quantum, which is knowledge, knower. Am I right?
I didn't
Close
catch the
enough.
question there. I was thinking about something else. Try that.
No,
again.
that was close enough, 10th. Yes.
So the
And-
wave, the interference pattern is something we should never see in the real world, but because of quantum, we actually see something that isn't something until you bring in a knower, and then it collapses, and then it actualizes. So we're seeing back to the beginning that it took a knower.
Close enough.
Well, one of the problems in the language, I think, is
Close enough.
describing
Hold
a
on a second.
phenomenon of light.
Can you guys hear me? Hello, radio check 1 2 1 2.
Yep, we hear you.
All right. One thing I wanted to leave off or add to is very important. With those two, I can just see the presentation in my mind's eye. With those two, I made the statement that you got to look at the collective pattern. It's not that light's not existing and not hitting that photographic plate. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you got to look at the overall pattern. The overall pattern is the key. If it's a wave function, then no matter is existing there. If that receptacle, if that detector is not there. How about that? Does that help out a little better?
Oh, if that's for me,
Yeah.
You see, to me, the fact that there's something there collecting the light tells me that light's going through.
But the reason you've done that when you put the photographic plate in place. In the same way as you could say, oh, right, we're out on a desert island. There's no TV signals at all. There's nothing to be actualized in terms of TV broadcasting. And the guy next to you goes, well, how'd you prove that? You go, well, check it out. You call in a helicopter drop and they drop you off a TV set and you plug it in, you link up the aerial, you turn it on and you go, there you go. There's nothing. Look, I can go through every frequency. There's nothing there. There's no TV broadcasting signals here to be actualized. And you turn around, humble, and go, yeah, there is. There it is on the TV screen.
Static.
The static shows that there is something. There's the static. No, the static is just a representation of interference. Nothing going on, nothing being actualized.
Exactly.
Well, do you think one of the problems with this is that when you talk about diffraction, you're talking about a phenomenon of light, not light itself.
No, that's another layer that to make it more confusing. It's the collective. If you can understand that it's the collective pattern that we're discussing here, then you got it. If you go down to individual photons hitting that plate on the interference pattern, then you're off the reservation. That's not what I'm referring to. The collective pattern on that screen is telling you that it's a wave function. Make it worse.
No. Honestly, I'll just have to go and listen again. My capacity seems to be a bit at its limit right now. It's interesting though, but I really thank you for your patience. It must be frustrating knowing.
No, it's not at all. These are profound things and very subtle things that if you don't catch, you'll be extremely confused. Now, what was Ted saying?
I was going to compliment
No,
you as well,
sorry, go
actually,
ahead.
Humble, because what you're asking tentatively, because you're like, I don't want to, ask the wrong question or seem like I'm not understanding in the wrong way or whatever, when you ask these very pertinent questions. Now, you've had a few people criticize you in the comments, right? After you've, come forth, be brave and gone on a show and expressed your thoughts on the nature of Earth, right? Well, here you are doing it again. And you're asking all the right questions. You are humble in the way you're doing it as well. Good name, by the way. Now I know why. Right? Because you're approaching it in a way that says, I've recognised that there's things I don't understand about this. Please explain them to me. And it gives us an opportunity to do it in a way that's nice. As opposed to somebody who's coming and being vindictive and saying we're wrong in our descriptions of it. And not saying, well, I just don't necessarily understand this aspect of it. And I have listened. Here you go. Here's the bit I've listened to. So, spot on. I like it a lot.
Can I see if I can...
After Brian.
I'll be quick. Mine is more of a question, because I'm not up on all this either. Light is definitely not my strongest topic. But basically, what I always got from it was, without that second detector, then there's nothing that actualizes. So it only actualizes because the detector is there. So if you don't have the detector, there's nothing to actualize.
Yeah, that's true for both cases. However, there's a deeper point, right? Because that second detector is showing you a wave function, and wave functions aren't physical. They're not real. They're just descriptions, right, of what happens in the experiment.
They're derivatives.
A what?
A derivative. They're like
a derivative.
Yeah, they're secondary.
Derivative of what?
They're information derived.
No.
So not a primary thing.
No, that's not what.
Right?
That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is that it's showing not non-actualization is what he's saying.
I was just referencing the wave patterns, right?
Yeah, that wave pattern.
But that's
the third time I tried to say this.
Go ahead.
I'll try a fourth time, maybe a fifth. Yeah, probability distribution. Try a sixth time.
If I may, can I interject?
What, on the sixth attempt, after me saying 6 times that I'm trying to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I didn't want to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we keep calling it wave function, right? It's a probability distribution. Where will it go next? Who knows? It might go here, but then it might go there. That's what we're talking about. When QE keeps saying and harping on, sounds rude, when he's labouring the point that what we're trying to explain is the pattern. The wave function is a pattern on the photographic plate. What is that pattern? What does it represent? Well, it represents distribution of probability. Where will the next impact be? Well, if you know, that would be actualization, the 2 lines. If you know, you go, well, which slit did it go through? It went through slit 1. It's going to be bar 1. It's going to be there, right there. See where that first bar is? Because it went through that first slit. So it's going to hit there behind it. That's when it's actualized. That's wave function collapse. The actualization of where it's going to be, because you know that it's gone through the first slit. So it's going to hit the first bar. And it does every single time. As long as you know which slit it went through. That's the knowledge bit. Okay, let's step back to the beginning bit before you've got the knowledge. Where's it going to hit? Do you know which slit it went through? No, I don't. Well, then we've just got interference. It's not actualized anywhere. It doesn't hit at 0.1 or 0.2. It might hit at 0.7 next time, or 0.9, or 0.12. Well, did it hit 0.12 last time? Yeah. Well, it probably hit 0.12 this time, right? Well, let's fire it and see. You know what? It didn't. It hit 0.2. And so it goes on. It's just, where's it going to hit next? We don't know where it's going to hit next. It's just a probability, a likelihood of where it might hit next. Well, based on last time it hit there. Does it hit there this time? No. But there's a probability it might. And so on and so forth. That's what we're describing when we say it's not been actualized. my God, the ending got fucking rumpus, didn't it? I'm betting a
Sorry.
pound that was Arwen, not Neil.
Sorry.
I give up.
Sorry.
I give up. I fucking give up.
I'm so sorry. It was a perfect rant. I gave it to you, right?
D-Rose, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to start from and end what you said. All of these assumptions and assertions by Neil smokes grass out his ass. The problem with these people, all these charlatans, is that they bring assertions and claims that are inadvertently on the opposer's mind thinking, but on his thinking of intentionally begging for the burden of proof to disprove such something that he hasn't even proven. It's like if I say, there are unicorns flying in the sky. It's your duty to get up there 30,000 feet and prove that unicorns don't exist. So what that does to the layman, a neophyte, to think that, well, if you can't prove it that they're not there, there's probably unicorns flying at 30,000 feet above us. That's how they do things. They just squirt things out their face, and this automatic burden of proof of the opposers, us who are realistic, who understand that everything that deals with science and nature's cause and effect is anything that stimulates or registers from our five senses: sight, touch, smell, hearing, etc. If you can't see it, hear it, feel it, touch it, or taste it, more than likely it doesn't exist.
Well, that knowledge.
Even with the ether believers, they can't prove it, but they want us to disprove it. But how can you disprove something that doesn't exist? So they know this. That's why they do these things, and they throw up these quantum leaping things and these time bending in space, because we can't disprove it. And we are begging the question, yo, you prove it, but they don't have to prove it. They just put it out there, and then the general population sucks it up because of television. Sci-fi television has warped so many people's minds that people have this high probability or high likeliness of, that's possible. There may be unicorns flying 30,000 feet up in the sky. And being that Nathan and the
but we
FED
can
can't prove
disprove
it.
it.
So,
Was.
no, I know you can in most cases.
That,
I know you can in most
that's
cases.
incorrect.
But even
We
when
can't.
you prove it, even when you do so, the fans of pseudo professor and all these other charlatans, they still can put it out there and get away with it because nobody wants to hear your proof. Because they want to believe that there's unicorns flying 30,000 feet there. You understand what I'm saying? They want to believe that ETH exists. They don't understand that
I understand
light,
what you mean.
we see light. Yeah, we see light and we hear sound. So we know that exists. But as far as the waves, to me, my concept of the wave is if you put a detector or register in front of that beam of light or that sound frequency, of course you're going to see this so-called pattern that they call a wave, which is just something interfering the normal flow. That's how I look at it. But that doesn't mean that it's a wave per se. It's just like maybe a metaphor for a layman to understand. When something blocks the light, then you have the wave. Or something blocks the sound, like if the sound bounces off of a solid matter thing, you're going to get that wavelength, I guess. Yeah, when you hit a drum, basically. That's all I'm saying. But I'm out.
Well, the wave function, anything to do with waves is purely mathematical. There's no such thing when it comes to sound or light as waves. It's just a mathematical way of describing it, really. But when you said if we can't feel it, touch it, taste it, and Nathan said information is real, but we can't feel, touch, or taste it. So that's something you have to remember, that it is real, but it's not something we can sense. We can only know it.
Hold on. How do you define real?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
Hold
things
on a
like
sec.
that.
Yeah.
We need that. We need that detector, right? That's what the
Is
instruments come
information
to detect
information.
Is information physical?
No, it's not. It's not. It's supernatural.
Yeah, I tried to interrupt you in the
So
middle
your
of that,
own
D-Rose, to say that.
Yeah. So your own interpretation of that information is what makes it exist, or does it exist outside of that?
It exists in the knower as a supernatural, doesn't it? Because it's the information. Otherwise, it's just gobbledygook, isn't it?
Well,
So
I think
it
that's what's
exists.
kind of good.
So the pattern may exist, but the information exists in the knower and the sender, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing, though. You know, it's like that's why it's so mind bending when you talk about things like the delayed choice quantum eraser. Because
It
your
really is
ideas
not.
of what?
It
Because
really
your
is not
ideas
too
of
far.
what?
The detector.
Hold on. Can you just let John
Sorry.
get to the end of his thought?
Because the old ideas of what physical means are put into question by that experiment, like existing outside of the mind. What does that even mean now?
What I
It would
hear
mean that
Adam saying. Well, go on, Brian.
No, thanks. You go ahead. Go ahead.
What I hear Adam saying is God is the knower, the sender, and we exist only because he is God, or we wouldn't exist. That's what I hear Adam saying.
Well, we are the detector plate at that point. The information is only received because we exist. If you understand. That's how I describe it.
We are the detector? No.
But if we're not the detector, if you are not the detector of the information, then how do you know it's being received?
I got something from Richard Con Henry from Nature, volume 436, 7 July 2005. Physicists shy from the truth because the truth is so alien to everyday physics. A common way to evade the mental universe is to invoke decoherence, the notion that the physical environment is sufficient to create reality, independent of the human mind. Yet the idea that any irreversible act of amplification is necessary to collapse the wave function is known to be wrong in Renninger-type experiments. The wave function is collapsed simply by your human mind seeing nothing. The universe is entirely mental. That's from Nature.
And that's fucking mind bending.
Wow.
But QE, they have to say that because they're atheists and don't believe in the creator.
Yeah, that's a killer one right there. I like that, Richard Con Henry. It smacks because I'm doing, the treatment of the numpties, and this is going to come up. So, and I was just going over this a couple days ago, and it reminded me of it, what you guys are talking about.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect way for me to round
is there
out.
another question?
No,
Say
but
again?
you can plug your treatment if you want to do it. Is it tomorrow or tonight?
I don't know when I'm going to do it, whether it's Thursday or Friday yet, but it's going to happen this week before Ballbusters Saturday.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!